Welcome visitors and board members to the Niagara Parish School Board Committee as a whole for April 11th, 2023. Please silence all your electronic devices and anything that would interrupt our meeting. Should you choose to speak to an agenda item, complete the form in the back of the room for addressing the school board and pass it to the front. And Ms. Revels, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Danzy?
Here.
Mr. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Benefiel?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mrs. McGaskey? Ms. Palmer?
Here.
Ms. Phelps?
Here.
Ms. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Fredu?
Here.
Mr. Nicholson?
Here.
And Ms. Page?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. We'd like to open the meeting with the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir. So I think a few months back I mentioned to y'all that we probably need to rename Natchitoches Parish as Natchitoches Basketball Parish or something of that nature, because every one of our high school teams made it to playoffs, but Lakeview did some things that others did not, and so we want to recognize them specifically. Today we have with us a few representatives of the boys basketball team. We also have Coach Williams and Miss Renter. Because the boys this year had a great season. They ended up making it to the semifinals. And, you know, when I think of high school basketball, when I think of high school basketball achievement, I think that's synonymous with what Lakeview and what Coach Williams and what his predecessors have done to build at that school over the past few years. So I don't know if Ms. Renter or Coach Williams or who's going to come to the front, but we'd love to take some time to recognize y'all, and if y'all have some things to share with us, and we got a few of our players here tonight, and we're going to have the young ladies here Thursday as well.
I think they're drawing straws back there.
First off, I would just like to thank you guys for having us. Seems like it's becoming a yearly thing for the basketball teams at Lakeview, but we don't take anything for granted. And we just want to say thank you for having us. I do apologize for some of the students. They do play multiple sports, so we have some that's at baseball and track and different things like that. And I hate that we couldn't have the whole team, but hopefully we could possibly get y'all a picture or something, and y'all could post it in the school board offers or something like that. You forgot to acknowledge my assistant coach right here, Coach Williams.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Coach Williams, would you like to give us a wave? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Coach Young. I'm sorry. But thank y'all for having us, and hopefully we can continue the success at Lakeview. Like I said, we're only graduating 3 seniors, so we still should be pretty successful at basketball again next year.
And they do get some
that.
scholarships too.
Oh, yes. Definitely try and get some young gentlemen some scholarships. Beside me, I have Mr. Alonzo Driver, who has the ACT and the GPA to actually go play in college. So we just have to work on some on-court skills, and hopefully next year we'll be talking about him signing as well as winning the state championship.
There you go.
And Dylan Pike.
Coach.
Alonzo was also recognized as All-State this week.
Oh,
All-State player for
Congratulations.
Congrats, Alonzo.
So, Coach, how many
shy over
hours?
there.
How many hours would you say that you have since? What is it, July when y'all kick off?
Mm-hmm.
How many hours of practice do you think y'all put in?
Well,
Putting you on the spot, but hey, it's important.
we a lot of people don't understand the work that goes behind the scenes. We practice every day, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve. Those days, these kids actually leave their families, come to the gym, and put in a lot of hard work for the success. And so it's just like one of my players say, it's not if we practice, it's when we practice, because it's always a practice of weightlifting or something. But the dedication that these kids put into it, I try and teach life skills, because if they go on and carry it into whatever profession they do in life, then you know you'll have a successful adult or a successful citizen.
So building blocks, doing well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Ms. Renter?
I said I wasn't going to say anything. But I do have to speak on. I want to speak on Coach Williams and the dedication he has for our team and for those boys and the stories I could tell you of how he goes above and beyond the parameters of his job duties. It's just phenomenal to see the bond that exists between him and his team. And I'm so proud of all of them. And I'm so excited. I was, traveling all over the state and everything, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Mr. Enter, I was there with, I think Pastor Harris was there and Mr. Fredu were there, and we were watching you. I don't think anyone was more nervous in the building than Mr. Enter. She was pacing back and forth.
Please don't tell all my secrets, Dr. Eloy. Don't do that. So I just wanted to say congratulations, and I'm super proud of all of you, and I'm proud of Coach. He's grown so much, and I actually kind of like him these days. So.
Thank y'all so much. So, and again, we get to celebrate Lakeview again Thursday when we have the young ladies who were runner-up.
Did well.
Did very well. That was a heck of a game. Games, I guess I should say. But right now, I want to deviate a little bit from my superintendent report. We have Mr. Royal Martin and some people from Marco here with us. There's an ITEP issue that he is more adept at explaining than I. And so I'm going to get him to come up here. He's already met with our executive committee, and that was a really good meeting. But I think he can explain what's going on to us better so we can make some educated decisions on Thursday.
I'm Roy O. Martin III. I'm the CEO of Martco. We celebrated our 27th year in business on March the 8th here. And this is Emily Bruno, our certified internal auditor. I call her from the CIA. She is actually the one that prepares all of our reports for industrial tax exemption program. And I also have to say to you, it's been a pleasure working in Natchitoches Parish. And we went from, and when we started in 1996, everybody thought we were crazy building a greenfield plywood plant at that point in time because plywood was dead. Well, I'm here to say plywood is not dead and it's not dying. It's been a tremendous run because we have great people, great resource, and great markets around the country. A lot of your trees from Natchitoches Parish are in Maine, in California, up to Chicago and Minnesota, over into Florida. We have a nationwide market for these products because we make specialty products, and that's why that we're not so hurt by the recent housing market plunge. So that's kind of the primer. The other thing we do is we grow. We put in a second lathe in 2007 and hired another from 330. We hired up to 650 people. We then put in a timber mill that stuck onto the side of that. We went from 650 to 687 people. And that's where we were when we started a new expansion in the plant. Because we always want to be growing. We're either growing or dying, and I'd rather be growing. And so that's where the industrial tax exemption program, it helps us fund these projects, helps us choose Natchitoches Parish in which to build and grow. And so we're not finished. I can tell you that right now. So in that, we signed a contract for the industrial tax exemption for 678 jobs. We had to do 1,026 total in Louisiana because we have a oriented strand board plant in Oakdale, a forestry office, which is also in Natchitoches Parish, and around other things around the state, our home offices in Alexandria, as you can remember. And we said from 678, we're going to create a minimum of 14 jobs. And we create a lot more than that. However, this thing called COVID happened. And in 2020 in March, the entire world shut down. Most of our competition shut their plants down for 2 to 3 to 6 months. We did not. We ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right through it. We kept everybody spread out. We had to, fortunately, we have nurses and doctors on staff. We have a medical home for all of our employees and a pharmacy. So they came out and made sure that we were doing all the COVID policies correctly. That also meant a lot of changes to the plant that we had to do. And we did that. And through 2020, we went from 678 to 707 jobs. Now, that's how many people we had on the payroll that are on our list like this that we submit to the state. I can't pass this around because it's got Social Security numbers and all that stuff on there, but that's there. That's what we file with the state. And so that was 707, but some of those people started work in December. And we had Christmas and down week and other things. If you remember Hurricane Laura in August that we shut us down, the power was out for 8 days at Chopin. Now, a lot of people did not work that week. I paid them anyway, but I didn't pay them I paid them 40 hours. We had an ice storm in February of 2020. We paid them 40 hours, but they didn't work 40 hours. And so there are a lot of things that happened during 2020 and 21. So when you take a report 2 years after the fact and look at it and divide everybody by 52 weeks or whatever they worked, some of the people dropped out, and according to the Department of Economic Development, they didn't average 30 hours a week. They got paid, they had a job, we had the positions, but their math came out, they dropped them out. So the Department of Economic Development said we didn't hire 707, we hired, I think, 700, and that didn't qualify. Now, they were there because you can't run the plant if they're not there. We had supervisors run the plant too during 2021. That's the other thing that happened. We had a lot of positions open, but people didn't really want to work in 2021. Why? Because they had COVID's stimulus money. And we had a lot of positions. We had a lot of supervisors running machine centers because nobody was there. We're 1 week, Connie Baker told me, who is our HR director, told me we were down 100 people that week. How we ran, I have no idea. So you may have heard at the end of that year, we gave everybody quite a big bonus, a surprise bonus, because that year was just extraordinary for trying to get to work. So we went from 707 total in the way I count people, like by the head, we had 685. But this year, we caught up. Or 2022, we caught up. We fully staffed the plant for the first time in 3 years, and we ended up with 744 people. That is the number of people that we have on the payroll, getting full benefits, getting profit sharing, getting scholarships to Northwestern. Every child of an employee gets a $3,000 per semester scholarship if they make a 2.75, and a lot of them go to Natchitoches, and a lot of them go to Northwestern. In fact, I think I wrote a check for $77,000 to Northwestern this past semester. A lot of kids go there. And that's my story. I hired them. They're there. We're growing. We have plans to do other things. There's a lot of other things that we're finding out that we can do with a piece of plywood. The infrastructure bill is going to create a boom in pouring concrete. Well, concrete form comes from plywood. And we are looking at different things that we can do to that piece of plywood to make it last longer and longer and longer. The timber mill has been exceptionally successful, and we're looking at expanding that as well. So I'm asking you, the numbers do not represent the people that are employed.
And Mr. Martin, not to interject, but didn't also, from our discussion, the year you had supposedly less number of people, didn't you also pay them significantly more, though, than?
Yes. Our average wage is close to $59,000 each. And we paid them during 2021 a very significant bonus at the end of the year. Oh, and an 8% wage increase. Jeremy Burford, he is the guilty party here. He is the plywood vice president. I paid 2 weeks of COVID leave, and we gave them, I'm sure this is public record or public knowledge. It's not public record, but it's public knowledge. We paid them $1,000 for every year of service.
Board members, what reason Mr. Martin and crew are in front of us, is that we received a letter from the Industrial Tax Exemption Program saying that they were out of compliance as a result of the numbers game. And this board has a couple of choices to make. We can say, hey, we understand what happened and we just carry on as business as usual. We can choose to do something to penalize, or we can do something in between. The numbers speak for themselves. Martin and company Marco have done everything they possibly could to keep everybody employed in Natchitoches Parish that was working for them, whereas a lot of places were not. And so any question from Mr. Martin on why they're here, because this is a notice from the state, and then we have until May 14th to make a decision on what we want to do.
What's that? Oh, you have a resume. Right, we'll take them. We're still hiring, are we not? We're still hiring. We, some of the successes we've had over the past year, since the superintendent's been in, is we have really jump-started our Woodworks program in Lakeview and in Natchitoches Central. And like I've said, I should be hiring 15 to 20 people per year right out of Natchitoches Central senior class. And out of the community college too, because higher education and education are a passion for me. I was the chairman of the Board of Regents and a member from 2012 to 2017, 6 years, and so it is a passion for me to get involved in schools.
I was excited to see Ms. Pinckney and Mr. Stewart hitting you up back there. I'm assuming about industrial manufacturing.
I have their card. Yeah, Connie's already been. I think Lakeview's going to tour our plywood plant tomorrow. And we will absolutely be in touch with them about the new program.
I really would like to see that Groundhog Day get kicked off too.
That's right. That's right.
Job shadowing. Let's see what we can offer here in Natchitoches Parish. Let's get those high school seniors out there. You can hang around the house and do nothing, or you can make an average wage of $59 a year plus benefits, which is another, how much if we add that loaded?
Oh, yeah, we have our we have a medical home, a pharmacy. The pharmacy gave everybody a raise because I buy wholesale drugs and sell it to them without marking it up. Mm-hmm. And so and then we have an 80-20 medical thing. So people that have chronic prescriptions or for chronic illnesses, I've got emails $300, $400 a month to save them. So I had no idea I was a good drug dealer, but I am. No, thank you. Sure.
But loaded
Prescription drugs.
Those loaded benefits are in addition to the money that they're making. So
Right.
Mr. Martin was quick to point out he could have located the plant in Rapides, or he could have located it anywhere he wanted, but he chose Natchitoches Parish.
It's 4.5 miles north of the Rapides Parish line for a reason. Oh, I know what you were asking me, what you wanted me to say. We've had 3 years of profit sharing at 25% of eligible wages. That's pretty amazing. And I am happy to sign that check every year. Jeremy is even more happy to sign it. And Emily.
Matches 4%, but with that extra, it takes 18 years of working in a place, matching 4% to get what you got in 3 years of working.
Right.
18 years.
That's correct. We are a people company. We happen to make plywood, oriented strand board, and timbers. So
Board members, any questions for Mr. Martin? So our decision Thursday night will be to
what the state suggested we need to do.
So I spoke to Ms. Chang, and I asked her that because I said this is a little bit unprecedented for this board. Now, she informed me of two things. She said that there's, I hate to use the word, a pandemic of these situations due to the pandemic. And she said every municipality, parish government, school board has done something different. She said there's no real rhyme or reason to what they're doing in Lafayette compared to what they're doing here. She said it's completely up to the board. So she offered nothing in the vein of what we should or should not do, just what we can.
This is nothing that's been done maliciously. It's just numbers because of the pandemic. Am I right?
absolutely, the positions were up. We had positions, we were trying to pay $20 an hour and could not get people to come to work. And also, the other really irritating thing, I wish Connie was here to tell you how irritating this is we'd have job openings and we'd have 100, 150 applications. And 2 people would show up. They just checked that box that they applied. And so it was very frustrating. We invented something called a drive-through interview.
I saw that during that time.
And I thought that was very creative. That was not my idea. That was the HR's idea about, hey, look, just drive on through. You know, if you're scared to come to get out for COVID, we'll have a no-touch application system. So, and it worked pretty well. And then they would come and apply and never show up.
I saw y'all did a lot of innovative ways of trying to get people to come to go to work.
Oh, absolutely. One item that was homegrown from Royal Martin, it's not a new idea, but women in manufacturing. You know, we're short of people. We're ignoring half the population, or more than half. And so we started a big bent on women in manufacturing, have some really good success stories with that.
So are there specific jobs for the women in
All of them.
manufacturing?
You have my job.
Open to all of them. I mean, the job.
There are
open.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
The job positions for women are open across the board, or there are particular positions that you hire women in?
Oh, no, it's pretty well across the board.
Opportunity for any job within that facility, female to work in. I think we probably have female working in every role out there, to some extent. We do paper knowledge skills, so they rotate through every job in each department. So at some point, the female is doing that job during the rotation.
Right.
There's females in every single department.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the other reasons. My contract is silent on this, but you don't sit at one workstation in our facility and do the same job for 12 hours. You move. You move around. It's a lot better work environment.
Within a day, within
a week. You know, now, I can't say that's true every day. Like the lathe operator will stay there because that's a particular skill position. But he has a relief operator that comes in. But as far as we don't have a woman lathe operator, but there's no reason why we couldn't. You know.
We have had women who run the lathe.
We have.
In the rotation, learning that skill.
Learning that skill. We're trying.
There's nothing out there they can't do to that point. It's just, you know, what department they go to, what cycle they get into, whatever that is, they have the opportunity to do all those jobs. There's nothing that keeps them from it. The jobs from a strength standpoint or anything like that would prevent them.
And that absolutely includes supervision.
Okay.
So it's wide open. We have several supervisors around the company that are in. Yep. Correct. So it's working now, but it didn't work 2 years ago. Nothing worked 2 years ago. So.
Yes, the paper knowledge skills is the reason we were able to run. We had enough people in the facility that knew how to do so many things because they weren't stuck to one job. If that person didn't show up, we were able to flex them. So that program really paid dividends for us and hurt others because they did not have that.
And to end, I know I'm taking up too much of your time, but Emily, one option that they have is to do nothing. Is that correct?
Yeah, there was actually a list that I somehow got, but one of the option is just to let the contract continue on with the understanding that we're in compliance as of the end of 2022. And so they're a little behind on their reporting, being that this is a letter for the 2020 and 2021 years, I think. So yeah, that was one of the options. I think
They probably were short of help.
Yeah, not only that, but we'll probably see more of these letters coming from different companies, so yeah.
I think so. Did
Yeah.
let me ask you, did you all give $1,000 a year
Per year of service.
per year of service, or you gave just $1,000?
Yeah, so in other words, I handed out,
40 years, they've been with the company 40 years, they got $40,000.
I handed them a $40,000 check. They had no idea that was coming. I got that idea on a run one day.
I did appreciate that as well.
And we had many people at the plywood plant had worked 25 years. And so there was some rejoicing, shall we say. We have a video.
We were walking to the mill and we do a lot. We give them trinkets and, that kind of things, and bling, just Royal Martin. This time they were getting a check and many of them brought tears.
It was life-changing, and it was the right time, so. And God's blessed us with the assets to be able to do that, so.
You say.
Brett got a nice check.
There 4 years, they got 40,000, it'd be just 4,000, wouldn't it? Because you'll give them $1,000 a year, because you say 4 years is 40,000.
No.
40 years.
40 years, okay, I thought you said 4 years.
Everybody got a check, too. If they had only worked one day, they got
$1,000.
No, they didn't get 1,000. If they'd worked one day, they got $83.33. Everybody got a check. So, if they've been there 1 year, they got $1,000.
This year, we did with $1,000 for every employee.
Right.
But still, you still have that profit sharing, so I mean, that's, in Georgia, it
The
was
profit sharing is
$600 plus the COVID place.
Yeah.
So Louisiana didn't have nearly as bad as Georgia did. I mean, it was horrible over there.
Yeah, that's right.
Finding people to come to work.
I appreciate your consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I still have the rest of my superintendent report. I promise I'll be a little bit brief. I wanted to let y'all know that if y'all recall, Marthaville was our comeback campus. Now, a comeback campus, as defined by LDOE, was a school that showed a reduction in unsats and an increase in our advanced and masteries. But they had to show that in both ELA and math. So that was a pretty gargantuan task for Marthaville, and we still applaud them. But since then, they've come out and they've named comeback campuses in ELA or math. And so I'm excited to say that we have 3 more comeback campuses, and that is Fairview Alpha, Middle Lab, and East. They were named as comeback campuses. They got a smaller banner because they didn't get it in both, but they got it in at least one that they showed growth and proficiency and a reduction in unsats. So that's huge for all 3 of those campuses. We actually got, LDOE didn't tell us anything about it. They just sent us the banners, and we saw comeback, so we sent them to Marthaville, and then Mr. Gordy called and said, these aren't for me. So we got those to the other principals, and we're really excited about them. This past month has been the month of music. Natchez Central and their band got superior ratings in LMEA, Louisiana Music Association. Magnet, their band and orchestra, got superiors in the same vein. And then Middle Lab went to Disney and got a Golden Mickey, which I assume is on the same level as superiors at LMEA. What's going on in terms of our schools, and we're continuing to expand, our goal this next year is to expand band at East, so there'll be a feeder to NJH. And then we believe that within the next 2 years, we'll be at 100 students in band, if not over, at Natchez Central. We're building back the arts, and it's working. I can tell you, my wife and I, watching the orchestra with Lab, both had tears in our eyes, not because of our kid, but, well, partially because of her, but mainly because what Mr. LaCour and the educators in this parish are doing is nothing short of miraculous. I mentioned my own daughter. She's only been doing it for 7 months, and I guess she sounded good with the rest of them. But what they're producing is, we beat schools from around the nation, some of which were high schools. And then you see Magnet and Central doing the same thing here locally on a state level. It's amazing. So I wanted them to all get their kudos there. I did want to update, Mr. Fredu had asked about the doors at Goldana last month. Those doors are in and being installed. They're just waiting on the panic bars. It only took, we won't even talk about that, but it took a while because of about 9 months? 6 months. Which brings me to a category that is near and dear to my heart. I've lost sleep over. It's something that I lose sleep over, not because I don't think we're doing a good job, but because there are evil people out there who always want to do evil things. Unfortunately, we're all aware of the most recent school shooting in Nashville and the the workplace shooting in Louisville, Kentucky that occurred this week. There's a few things I want to mention what we're doing that I'm excited about, but one thing that I would really, at the pleasure of the board president, and I've had some conversations with different board members about this, I do believe that we need to create a safety committee on this board that makes recommendations with our professionals here, whether it be Mr. Shirley or the sheriff's department, et cetera, on how can we do better. Because what I'm learning from these things is I do think we're doing better, but it's constantly evolving, the threats are. And I don't say that to scare anyone. It's just every time I see one of these things, I think of something different we have to do. And I think we need to be proactive, not reactive.
Right.
So, again, that's at the pleasure of the board president, but that's something I would like you to all strongly consider. And I think that's something that we need to do to show the community that we are actively engaged in this. Now, before we get into that piece, I do want to tell you some good news about security. We have sent off on April 3rd, and we should know the first week of May, a grant through LDOE for security. That security will provide a number of metal detectors at every site, multiple metal detectors for every point of entry. But the main project that it'll do is it'll create a single point of entry, or I should say a more single point of entry for Natchitoches Central, which has the most doors in the parish. The second part of that is we also believe Bond 9 is wrapping up, and we believe, based on our calculations, the interest that we earned off that bond, after all bills are paid, we will have a minimum of probably about $500,000 to work with. We would like to designate those funds for safety and security, and we believe that that would be a point that we could bring that security committee together to determine what we're going to use that $500,000, and if we're lucky, maybe even close to $750,000, depending on how the punch list works out. And so that's what we're doing currently, but we just feel like we need to do more. We're looking into some laminate overlays for doors that make our front entryways, hate to use the term, but it's the only term there is, bulletproof. But things of this nature, we want to bring this group together and get your insight on what we can do better. So I have a few other things, but I want to pause there if there wants to be any discussion about that.
No, I think that's great. I think we need to talk among ourselves and come up with that committee for Thursday night, if that's okay.
I would like to thank you for the awesome report on band and art, and for the band, the directors that are coming, hiring more people, because we know that art and music makes a difference for children academically. I think they excel better. Thank you so much. It's
Yes,
good to
ma'am.
hear
And
that
next
report.
month we're going to try to get all those folks here. We had basketball this month. We're going to have music folks next month, and maybe they'll even do a little ditty for us. Real quick, I also wanted to mention two last things. May 6th, mark your calendars. I know the board is very excited about this. We have our school board auction, which if you go down South Drive, you see the big sign. That's May 6th, 9 a.m. at the warehouse. All sorts of things that we've declared surplus, from some small buses, multiple zero-turn mowers, multiple tractors. So tell your friends, bring a friend, buy a tractor
And a trailer.
and a trailer. And then finally, something. Yes, buses.
Can we throw some buses on there?
Yes.
That'd be all right.
There's a and a Lakeview bus.
Thank you.
Hawk bus.
I wouldn't guarantee them for a long ride, though.
No.
No, they're by as is. And then finally, something that our good buddy Mr. Eugene Garner brought up a while ago, and things just kind of have a tendency of getting lost in the shuffle. But his successor has brought it up again, and we are at the point where we're starting to have discussions about it internally. And so I just want to give you an update. Is if you recall, Mr. Garner brought up the idea of kind of reconfiguring the structure of how we do custodial services, specifically have it kind of somewhat similar in design to how we do cafeteria, school food service workers. We have, they have the boss as their principal, but then they also go to Ms. Hicks for things. We're looking at doing some similar structures with Mr. Shirley to provide greater training, professional developments, and accountability as well to make sure that things are getting done. I did want to add to that, Mr. Shirley has a position that y'all approved a while back. It's preventative maintenance that he is held on. But part of the safety discussion as well is not only making that a preventative maintenance, but that also being a safety inspector as well. So for all those tornado drills, active shooter drills, checking that the fire extinguishers work, all these things that have to happen on a continuous basis, there being that one person that we would rope into that preventative maintenance.
Security lights,
Yes,
batteries, make sure that transformers, yeah.
It's all life safety.
life safety. Yeah. So he'll be posting that position, I think, in the following weeks. I don't even know if he's talked to Ms. Page about it yet, but it is a position you've already approved, I guess, at this point, over a year ago. We just haven't moved on, so. And that is my superintendent report for the month of April.
I have a quick remark, if you will. A great big thank you for the auction. I don't care if we make $10 off of it. It's better than seeing our stuff rot and just go to waste and get stolen. So thank you to whoever put that together. It's long overdue.
Absolutely.
And I sincerely appreciate that. So let us know what we make off of it.
I'm just upset I can't bid.
How will we advertise for that?
So there's a big sign, we're gonna
There's a
put out on
sign out
social
there.
media as well, but there's a big sign right now that's been out there, I think now for about 2 weeks. But yeah, we are gonna put some social media as well.
More,
What's the time frame?
So it's until they get through all the lots, isn't that what they call them, the lots or what?
Yeah, talking about lots.
But
The
it'll start
monies-
at 9 a.m.
Will the monies go to the individual schools, or will they go to a central account?
surplus.
Or security fund.
Everything's been declared surplus that's there, right? So,
Actually, I think that, it goes in the general fund, but we portion it out.
Gotcha.
Especially if it was that particular school's, equipment, you know?
I'm assuming it could go into their
I think
bigger.
with the auction, it's considered as a surplus. Any of the other
Right.
auctions that they used to do all the time, it just goes in the general fund.
That's what it is.
Because it's all, once it became, we voted as surplus, it became the school board stuff.
Yeah, it left the personal school,
No, I mean,
individual school.
if there is a special project, like I heard Ms. Reba say about safety, if y'all wanted to divert that.
John Hicks has accepted to take all the money.
Yes, you could earmark it.
So you're gonna take one for the team, Ms. Hicks? Okay.
Coffee bar at Natchitoches Central now.
Right, right.
Our informational reports, I was gonna comment on, all four of our leaders are here at one time for the first time.
Well,
Ms. Page took off for a second. Miss Washington.
Praise the Lord.
Good afternoon, everybody.
good afternoon.
As far as busing is going, I had a meeting with, by summer school, getting that together. Ms. Theus and I, had a meeting trying to, get us set up with the robocall. So, with us having a shortage of drivers, we're having to drivers are having to do extra routes. So that way the parents would be notified by text or, however they'll know what bus the kids are getting on. And different things like that, so the worrying would be able to stop.
Can I speak to that real quick? What she's referencing, I don't know if y'all know, we typically don't put that Jimmy Smith bus route as bus 105. By now putting that in there and giving Miss Washington access, as soon as she knows that a driver is out, or if she knows there's a substitute driver, she can immediately do a robo-text to people that informs them immediately without even having to go through the school, although the school would be informed as well.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That would be a big help.
Especially in the rural areas.
Yeah, a lot of times when a sub driver can't make it out, it's a last-minute decision to have to split kids onto different buses, and parents have no clue.
Yeah.
So to have an automatic system to give them a call,
Yeah, so Ms. Theus and I, we had a meeting about it, so we're giving her the information. It probably won't go in effect until the next school year, but that'll give us time over the summer to get everything, work all the kinks out, and for us to learn exactly how to do it. So we'll have that in place coming into the next school year. As well as with summer school, I came to a meeting and we're meeting again, just so we can have all the information and get everything situated for summer school as well.
Miss Washington, summer school, would you like to say how that works if you ride the bus in summer school?
Summer school, does not do door-to-door for all the parents. It has set stops. A lot of parents still want door-to-door service, but if we do door-to-door service time, it's just not enough time for it. So we do have set stops, and they will be posted on the website, Natchez Parish School Board website, and the school also will have the routes. They'll be put out there, you know, and everything. So parents will be notified and what times, you know, that the buses should be there, give or take 10 minutes. So it will be put out there for all the parents.
Newspaper.
What about the, special need kids?
Special needs kids doesn't change. They still will get door-to-door services because we, of course, we don't want anything to happen. And we don't release them off the bus until someone is there to receive them. So other than that, you know, everyday students will have a set stop. So, and a time, you know, that the bus will be there.
Now, you mentioned that it'll be put on the website. What about newspaper, social media? Because
Most of the
everybody
time,
now go to the website.
like last year, we did post it online. I'm creating a Facebook page for us as well, so we'll put it there.
We've run it in the Journal before as well.
The Journal did it, so it was multiple agencies that did have but parents still called, so it wasn't a big deal. And also too, like the schools, when they opened up, they did have a list, and it's a good thing because it's not like 20 stops. It'll be a limited amount of stops. You know, we wait to get the student's name to see, and we add to it every year. You know, try to make it convenient. We don't want you to have to go 20 miles to pick up your child, so it won't be an outrageous stop. But we can't, you know, because of time circumstances, do door-to-door for summer school. And we did hire 3 new drivers Monday. They did their testing and everything, so we brought 3 new drivers in. So everything is moving forward.
Ms. Washington, I know obviously in rural areas with the road issues, do you currently have some roads that you cannot travel to pick up kids?
Only when it rains. That's really our biggest thing. When it's not raining and everything, I mean, the roads are bad, but it's not impassable. When it rains, like I said, we just can't jeopardize 30 kids to go pick up one kid, you know. And they flood, a lot of the roads in the rural area flood real easy. And so we even have mud grips on all of those buses. It's just not safe for them to go down those.
Have you been able to communicate with parish president and council easy on those lists?
I do. We have a number we call directly and give them the drivers a call, even with limbs hanging too low, because we have one bus. I thought it was a new design on the bus. I'm like, when we get a bus like that? But the branch kept hitting it and hitting it and hitting it until it dented our roof. And I'm like, you know, but it ended up being a branch. So we did call, you know, so we do call and we report it and we keep documents of it, but we don't have control over it, but we do report it.
Thank you.
When y'all combine these routes, are y'all overloading the bus?
No, that's what we have to make sure. We got some new buses, and they're bigger, and they're 77 passenger, and so we just had randomly, the buses that are close to capacity, we have to randomly do checks on them to make sure those kids are assigned to that area, because we have some kids, they want to go ride the bus with their friends and different things like that. And so our biggest struggle is coming when friends want to ride home with their other friends. And if our buses are the crowded buses, we can't do it. Like I told them, I'm sorry, but that'll take us to being over capacity.
There's been a few singular instances where it's happened, but me and Miss Washington communicated, and I think that was a matter of maybe a new driver not knowing and making a unilateral decision. And so we've been in very good communication that can never happen.
Yeah.
Board
we did
policy say
receive
if they riding the wrong, different bus and the parent's supposed to send a note to the principal, and the principal say yay or nay. And if there's not no room on that bus,
Yeah, and
with the bus driver, and then
Yeah, and that's usually, matter of fact, Miss French over at Magnet, she did, and she called just to make sure, verify our, our policy and process for that. And if there's room on the bus, it's not a problem, long as the principal did sign off on it. But, she just wanted to make sure that it had enough capacity and wouldn't, put it over. And I'm like, is this a one-time event or is this gonna be daily? And she was like, no, it's just one time. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, one time, but I don't want to open up a can and then have, because when you do it for one, I promise you, it's going to be so many people calling, well, you let my friend do this and that one, so I just don't like even making any kind of accommodations like that.
Yeah, because we did get a report that there was some overcrowding in
No, it was.
certain buses.
And I did get a call, and Dr. Eloy did call me about a bus that was overcrowded. The parent did call, and like I told him, I wasn't aware of it because the bus driver didn't even tell us, so we didn't combine that route anymore. And so we haven't had any more calls about that particular route, but we haven't combined it at all. Because, the thing about it, I do want them to be safe. If something happens and, an accident or whatever, and then all of a sudden you got 100 kids on the bus, and that's a whole different ballgame now. So we just make sure,
If it does happen that way, the drivers need to realize if that bus is overloaded, fall on them. It don't fall on you, and it don't fall on
yeah, because if
because
they don't say nothing,
law.
yeah.
The bus driver's supposed to know their capacity. It used to be that say that if a bus was 70 passenger, you could add 10% more, you could add 7 more kids, where they did away with that. If it's 70 kids, if you when you got your 70 kids, if you got one standing out there, you got to leave that one, call for somebody else to come. Because it don't fall on the school board and it don't fall on the bus company, it falls on.
Yeah, and with high school kids, you can't even if it's a 70 passenger, with high school kids, you still can't because, you can only do 2 to a seat, and so we just try to pay close attention to that to make sure that everything is updated, and we do make them do a check when they start seeing what their buses are getting crowded. That's when we'll get the list and start going through just to make sure that everybody that's riding is assigned to that bus. And when we do that, then they usually take kids off that's not even supposed to be riding.
So how many bus drivers are we actually down now?
As of 5 now, because we got 3, so now it's, 4. We're down 4 now. 4. And the only thing right now is because it's about to be summertime and it's hot and everybody's back outside, so we just have to watch absenteeism to make sure that, the ones we have do come to work. So far, we're good on that part of it. Like I said, we're still recruiting, bringing in, and everything. So, like I said, if you know anybody, send them our way, and we can make a bus driver out of them.
Ms. Washington, 2 things. Number 1, thank you for what you do. You've got a really tough job, and it requires a lot of communication. And anytime there's any type of breakdown or misstep in that, parents get upset. I was wondering, is there any way possible you could maybe start giving us a written report that we could attach to the board docs and maybe say on there how many drivers were down?
Okay.
Last month we met and it was reported, everything was good, drivers were filled, and the very next day I got 2 calls, one about buses being overloaded and one bus route not showing up at all. And one parent was on her way out of town for a doctor's appointment and had to turn around and come back and take her kid to school. And so my first thought was, oh gosh, this can't be true because we just heard yesterday that everything was fine. And I know we need to hear the good and we need to hear the positive, but it makes it less shocking when we get calls.
Yeah. And I do understand that wouldn't be a problem, like that. And like the robocall will help a lot because a lot of times parents are used to buses being there at a certain time, and when they're not there, they're going to frantic. So, and it could have been that the bus wasn't there, and so she had to turn around and go back, whereas the bus was just late. But had we had the robocall in place, that could have alleviated all of that. So I think the robocall will help us out a lot.
And then too, the roads that you can't travel down, is there any way to let the parents know at the beginning of the school year, you live on a high hazard road, we may not be able to get to you in the event of rain? Like, be prepared?
I kind of like that.
Great stuff.
I think
I mean,
most
I
of them
mean,
already
like I said, anything, we can try anything, you know, it won't be a
Yeah, I'll
problem.
have four-wheel drive vehicles.
More communication is better than
Yeah.
none. And we've all seen the pictures on Facebook of buses stuck in the muds, which is clearly not your fault. But if,
I mean, going into the new school year, we have a lot of new ideas, and like I say, I'm willing to try anything, because I personally like not having any calls coming in, you know.
Right.
So, I'll be willing to try, and if it works, I'm good with it, you know.
And I hope that, they're gonna be doing some repair,
I know.
some of the parish, in the rural areas. Have y'all heard anything recently?
We haven't heard anything,
Speak on that real quick, because I do want people to realize, and I'm not disparaging any other entity, but there is a difference between parish school board and the parish council. And for instance, we do bus turnarounds. And I know there's been some frustration with that, but that's a mutual effort between us and the parish council, but we can't act until they act. And the same is true for any of these roads. I know there was a road that was impassable here recently. I would love to pull Lee Wascom and Shauna Hicks out there, and we could just bring a bag of gravel and stamp it down and make that road passable. But it's so much out of our control. And we work very well with Mr. Richmond and his staff, but if that road or that turnaround isn't on their budget, or it's not on the highest priority, it's not gonna happen, but we kind of get equal fussing at. And it's not, we don't take it personally, because it's people who may only have one car, or they're both at work, or, you know, there's a million reasons, or it's the 20th time that their road is not passable. But I do really want people to understand that, hey, we're in this with them. We're not the enemy in regards to this, because the roads are just a Natchitoches thing right now, and I hope we one day overcome it. But if they come to us, we're gonna do everything we can, but then once we turn stuff over, it's very much up to the parish council to do their due diligence after that.
Well, as long as there's a system in place too, because I get a lot of calls off the roads in Marthaville. Some of them are very bad.
But I do want parents to know that if a bus is late picking them up or not show up for some reason, that we do contact the school, and they are excused or late, or it doesn't count against them, that you know, we're liable for it. So we do call the school and report it.
But y'all call the parish whenever whenever there is an issue and a road's impassable, y'all
yeah.
do immediately
Yeah.
call? Okay.
Yeah.
But, and to their credit, I mean, oftentimes they're not able to just run out there and fix it, because there's 20 other roads ahead of it on their thing. So we do our thing, but, you know, we can only push so hard as well. So.
We did call Rutgers to get them out. They're stuck in the middle of the road last year, so it's a pretty high-profile deal.
So, Ms. Washington, the reason I asked my question is this morning I got a call that a bus couldn't get to a home because of their road, and that was Pearson Road in Ashland. So, I mean, I don't know if you know anything about that.
No, I wasn't aware of it,
Their
yeah.
kids did not get picked up this morning.
Okay, I'll, if you get a chance, you can give me that information, and
will.
I'll take
I'll
care of it.
contact you after the meeting.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a quick question. What is the robocalling, what are the goals for that?
It's just really just to let parents know, like, hopefully we'll get fully staffed and we won't have to use it, but if for some reason, if someone calls out, like a bus driver calls out and we have to, let's say 74 calls out.
So like bus changes?
Yeah, bus
tardiness,
changes, yeah.
So-
different things like that.
Impassable?
Yeah.
Those are the goals that I'm
Yes,
asking for.
yes.
I'll give you an example. My wife called me at 4:30 one day, because our kids always get off at 4:10, and she was like, "Where are they?" And I'm like, "They're fine." I would have gotten a call, but in that situation, she would have gotten a robo text because I think they had to pull over or something. She would have gotten that, and she never would have called me. But it was nice. I called Miss Washington, and she's like, "Is it about your kid's bus?" I was like, "How'd you know?"
Yeah, it's a safety.
Yeah, and the good thing.
Like the top four, right?
Yeah, we have
Changes.
yeah. We have a GPS, all the buses, so when we know when a bus is running late or whatever, I just automatically pull it up. And so most time when they call in, I was just calling about, I say 142, 120, you know, they're like, yes, and I can tell them exactly where the bus is, and as soon as I tell them where it is, they're like, okay, you know.
So now you could send out, you click bus 142, it sends to everyone, and you could say, is running 10 minutes behind.
Yes.
Or you can
I know
say,
they can do an app on
a lot
that.
of times parents don't even know what bus they're on when
Your
they have to
child's
split.
bus.
Right, so they can say bus 124, and the parent goes, I don't know what bus my child's on.
Well, and we gotta do some educating where we say, if you get one of these things, it's because it's attached to your child.
Yeah.
That's kind of where my questions were coming from, just because there is a lot of unknowing.
Yeah, and we're trying to get parents to remember their route numbers of their kids. A lot of them look at buses, and the reason I don't tell them bus numbers is because if the bus break down, they'll be on a whole different bus, but their route number will stay the
And
same.
what you can do, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but what you can actually
We
put on
about
there,
to
you can
do
say,
that, huh?
bus route such and such,
Lord.
and then parentheses, the bus that J Campus has your child assigned to, and then explain out. Because there also may be the parent who has a child assigned to that, and they're like, my child never rides the bus.
Okay, that's bringing me another question. So you can look at J Campus and find out what bus route a child's supposed to be on, because that hasn't been the fact in the
No,
past.
that's what we're setting up now.
What we're moving
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're doing now. So hopefully over the summer, everything will be, all the kinks worked out. And so the beginning of the year,
J Campus has always had the capability, we've never utilized it apparently.
I know where.
Then there'll be an app that's gonna pinpoint where your child is at.
There is an app for that. It,
I'm telling you, I know it's
That
gonna
is
be.
wonderful.
if y'all have been to the LSBA conferences, y'all have seen it. I don't know how much it is. I know it's per student. It is pretty amazing though.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to having it happening.
If you want us to price it out, and we can bring it to the board, because
Money just got spent.
No. The company will do that. The company should do
to
it.
Pastor
Yeah.
Harris's point, if you were to do that,
The company should do it.
circumvent the need for the robocall, because it's a
That's
real
right.
time, it is a real time app.
Tattletale tells you right where the bus is.
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
And one main other courses about, summer school, because there's a large number of kids attending this year. The buses are air conditioned.
Yes,
All of
yes,
them.
yeah. And we actually brought 2 guys in this week. They were there last week as well, just strictly for air conditioning, just to make sure everybody, we don't want it blowing cool, we want it blowing cold, yeah, because the Louisiana weather is totally
Yes.
different. So
Yes.
they are here working this week just on air conditions.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Ms. Washington. All right. Ms. Hicks.
Good evening, everybody. I have a couple of things on my report that are not on yours because at the time we had to turn it in, I had not done our March claim, so I'll try to get that on for Thursday night, but Board Docs was closed by the time I had the numbers. Our claim amount for the month of February was a little over $290,000, which is substantially less than usual because we only had 14 claiming days in February. It was a short month. In comparison, March was $455,000 because we were in for 22 days. So that's great. Our average daily participation is holding steady, about 41% for breakfast and around 80% for lunch. That has remained consistent. I am still waiting to hear on the supply chain assistance funds. They have not given us amount, and they have not released the date that we will be receiving those. I keep looking, but it's not there yet, nor have they released the results of our grant awards. We had applied for state equipment grants for NSU Elementary, NSU Lab, and Natchitoches Magnet, and they still have not announced the awards. So I'm assuming that will come before the end of the year, so soon. Our dishwasher installation is still underway. Some people are up and running. It's a process because there was electrical work that had to be done, and it's just not a quick thing, but they are making good progress, and I'm confident that everybody will be up and running by the end of the school year. So we'll start next year being able to utilize our machines everywhere that we had them installed. Last month, I received some questions concerning menu publications. After I investigated a little bit, Ms. China was out on maternity leave, and when she lists the menu, it typically goes at the top of the list. So it was there, but it was at the bottom of the list because we had other people pinch hitting for her. So I apologize if parents were not able to see the menus. And in that vein, if parents are looking for May menus, those will not be published because we do what is called manager's choice. At the end of the school year, different cafeterias have different things on hand, so our managers actually choose the menus and put those together so that we can.
Yeah, clean
Thank
out,
you, Lois.
Clean out the fridge.
clean out the freezer.
It's kind of the same concept. So it'll be a surprise every day. Hopefully, the ladies will have something posted so the kids can see week by week. I'm also very pleased to announce we have a new cafeteria manager at Natchitoches Junior High. Mr. Marvin Gistarb Jr. has joined us. He is doing a great job. I think he's even volunteering to help with some sports teams there. So I think he's going to be a great addition to that campus. He's very excited and loves students, and we are so pleased to have him. And another positive note, just so you will know, at the end of March, we have served over 500,000 lunches and over 263,000 breakfasts. So our ladies are producing, and gentlemen, I should say. So I'm very proud of them and commend them for their good work.
You know, it's funny you say that because we just talked to buses. The millions of miles we travel a year, the hundreds of thousands of meals. I mean, and the fact that it's amazing how we get all this done, or how y'all
It
get all
is.
It's smooth, yeah. So what was your Yelp score?
I haven't had any complaints recently. I think I had one question. A parent had called, and this is actually a funny story. She called with some concerns, so I sent her all of our guidelines and the menus, and she said, I'm going to have to speak to my daughter about being so picky. These look fine to me.
Look good, huh?
So that was solved. Do you guys have anything for me?
And lighter meals during the summer. You do have a different.
The
menu for
only
summer.
difference, the only difference in the meal pattern is typically in the school year, we offer 2 vegetables and a fruit. And in the summer, the meal pattern is 1 fruit, 1 vegetable being offered for them. That's it. The rest is the same.
But they get the breakfast, lunch. Didn't they do something, wasn't there like a bag lunch for kids previously? Summer, at some location?
Not in my tenure. Last year, and in fact, last year we had a
Might have been another
special,
program.
We did that during COVID.
another,
We did it during COVID.
COVID,
during COVID, everything was in a bag or styrofoam, but
sometime another.
thankfully now we'll just be able to serve them cafeteria style regular.
Thank you.
Ms. Hicks, thanks for those numbers on the lunches and the breakfast. We had mentioned that at convention, that those were some of the positive things that we need to get out to the public so that they know where that money's going. So,
We have a little video that we're going to be putting out in the next month that's kind of like why Natchitoches Parish.
perfect.
And it's going to include some of that because we're the biggest restaurant. We're the, we have the biggest car service, all those type things.
Even on the signs at Natchitoches Central, it could say 42,000 lunches served this week or something simple. You know, just as parents are driving by, they know their kids are being fed,
But they don't ever think about it.
they don't. It's just a little something that says, oh yeah, that's right. God, that's a lot of kids. you know.
Another piece of the story.
Well, if you put Crispitos are back on the sign in front of Natchitoches Central, your
Coming
numbers
May
will go up.
5th. Cinco de Mayo, the Crispito is back. Spread the
Gumbo day.
word.
Gumbo day.
Yes.
He said Niagara Central.
Good evening, how are y'all?
Doing good.
Dr. Eloy stole all my thunder about the auction, so. I don't have, I do have some numbers on the auction. This is not written in stone just yet. I've went around to, every school in the parish. I've taken down the model serial number of every piece of equipment, what's staying, what's going. Some of these schools will be keeping some of their equipment due to athletic fields, ag departments, and different things. By the way it's looking, we will have about 40 pieces of lawn equipment. Probably 75% of that is mowers and tractors that are actually still in good shape, that still run. We do have some that unfortunately do not, but they are being sold off as well. We have a couple of trucks, 2 buses, and some of Miss Hicks' old kitchen equipment that was still functional.
In the kitchen sink, so.
Yeah, and the kitchen sink. We do have one of those. If you need it, we can get it for you. That auction is going to be pretty intense. I've got a feeling we're actually in the process now. If you ever seen the trash that we had under our canopy at the barn, it is now gone. It is all gone. It's been stacked all nice and neat of the things we can sell. The things that was declared trash have been gone. The things that
It's probably about at least 20, 30 years worth of.
well, I can tell you, metal dumpsters, which was done for scrap, that will be coming. We will be getting a check for that. We probably had about 11 or 12, and just trash dumpsters, I bet we went through about 20. Yeah, it's been pretty extensive. I mean, you're looking at two solid weeks worth of work with tractors and forklifts and 3 or 4 men cleaning that out. It was terrible. Needed to be done. Now it's done, and we will not let it get that way again. Not on my watch anyway. Now to the schools. Bus line piping at East Natchitoches, we've got it repaired finally, and new piping put under it. So now this summer we can repave that and get that back up. Right now we have it filled with rock, but it's actually new PVC piping. It's not the old cast iron pipe that went across the parking lot, so we changed that out. We got some new speakers for Mr. Himes put in the gym at NJH. We've got those set up. Lakeview is our next journey for the speaker challenge. We also got the big screen TV at Natchitoches Central put in the atrium, so that's up. I think we still have Goldana, Fairview, and Lakeview left for the speakers, and Mr. Himes has those. We're just waiting on the gentleman that's needing to install them, and we will carry him the lift and help him and assist him with hanging them. Parts of them are wired, parts of it is cordless, but the main speakers that we hung at NJH was corded. Yeah, so I don't know far as Cat 5 wires or any of that. I just know we had to have power to them and different things, so I'm not if they're 100% wireless or not. Let's see. As I told Reverend Harris earlier, the dish machine is ready to go at Lakeview. We're just waiting on the roofing company. We're discussing with them because we actually have to cut a hole in the roof. So we're checking with the warranty of that and what we need to do to not void the warranty. I don't know how much warranty is left on it. So that's one of those things, and the guy will not cut the hole in the roof until he has surveyed all options on that. Yes.
And that's culinary.
Yes, that's for the yes, sir. That's for the culinary arts department.
Yeah. Okay.
We've had the electrical done. The gentleman that's actually going to install the machine's sitting there. He will hook up all the plumbing. All that's already there. Our main concern was the kitchen hood to exhaust all the steam out of there and not take a chance of burning anybody. Other than that, that's about all I have.
Two other things I want to elaborate on. NPTCC, they can buzz in with the problem that they were having.
They have the buzzer installed. The electrician installed the electrical, and as far as I'm aware, I will check and let you know Thursday for sure. But as far as I'm aware, it's 100% complete.
Okay. And with Fairview, when do you think we're going to be able to actually address the plumbing that
The
has
actual tank,
years?
the actual tank and pumps, chemicals are up and going. It's been fully installed. Now, when we make these repairs, the repairs that we're making should last.
Okay.
It shouldn't be throwing good money after bad. So that was the main thing of getting that installed, was to prevent things that's already happened. And are we gonna have more leaks? Yes, we're gonna
Are
have
we
more leaks.
repairing them with copper?
Yes, sir.
What?
Because if you repair with the chemical that goes into the tank to make this drinkable water and usable water, it will actually deteriorate PEX. It's not good for PVC. It only, and the reason we went with the tank instead of going with the PEX or the PVC, our boilers and our chillers are filled with copper tubes. So if we don't, and it eats those copper tubes, $250,000 chiller, $60,000 boilers. So we had to not only take into account that the plumbing leaks that we have for as our domestic water, but we also got to take into fact what we're running through our equipment and how long that equipment is going to last. With the chemical that's going in there to fix this issue, it should prolong the life of our equipment, and we need that. Because right now we're stopping bleeding every single day. I don't know how many leaks we've repaired out there in the last 3 to 6 months. It's really unbelievable.
Have we tested the water after the tank?
No, that is coming. They're allowing it to run a month,
Okay.
and then at the end of that month, they will do testing and let us know. Also, gold on them. They removed those doors, replaced those doors. We're currently looking at using the doors that they replaced to repair the gym doors until we can figure out what we're going to do there. So that's another project that's in works. Any other questions? Well, come on. Take your shoes off, stay a while.
Found out today, Marthaville needs 22 fire doors. So, you know, some of the doors are kind of rotten and at the end of a hallway kind of bow and they're starting to come apart. It's because they're made of wood. And we're going to have to spend some time replacing 22 doors.
So
Also,
all exterior doors can no longer be made of wood? They have to be?
that's correct. They have to be a fire grade.
So real quick, the word rotten is probably a little generous. I mean, just need to be replaced for the new code.
Let's say in need of help. So anyhow, we need metal doors. They'll be a metal door.
We need to.
It'll be a it'll be a fire rated door.
Okay.
So
As far as
they're
aesthetics
falling
and
apart.
look, we'll replace with similar.
Right, so we'll start working on getting that replaced. I found that out today. Just wanted to report it to you as well. So you'll start seeing work proceed with that as well. Also, your new cafeteria design work is starting to happen. Provençal, Russ, you know about the water issues? For backup, we're going to put a little T.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do.
And we're gonna have it to where potable water can be plugged in from a fairly large tank for backup. We cannot afford to lose Provençal. It's too valuable.
And that's part of that plan that y'all charged me with doing in the policy committee, the continuous operations plan, so.
So the children will be, the drinkable water will be bottled water. It'll be donated usually through Fastenal. And we will, other facilities, like bathrooms facilities, will be monitored with the potable water.
And just to clarify for those watching, this is only in the event of a catastrophic failure of the Provençal water system, which
It's not happened yet, but
yeah, we just want to be proactive.
So
case of emergency.
That's correct. So anyhow, those were some concerns.
One thing to add, I forgot to mention that Thursday night I will be asking you all for permission to advertise for our milk bid and paper bid. I think that may be on your report.
It is.
I think it's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda. You're just testing us if we read it, right?
Okay, I'd like to bring up the budget. Once again, nothing really spectacular here. Everything seems to be in line. I would like to add the budget updates that y'all gave me y'all approved last month have not been updated here because this is the end of February. So since we're in April, we did the updates for the budget in March. They will update at the next month. It's just how our program works since he did an ending date of February 28th. So that's why, like, for instance, if you see this negative $561,000 sitting over here, that's because the budget updates haven't been updated there. So anyhow, which was my very first question when I saw it. But anyhow, I think revenue is in line where it needs to be. I think payroll, really nothing spectacular to report. It seems everything seems to be going along as planned. Even with the new salary schedule that we started last July, the child nutrition is doing well. Apparently you made, what was it you said the month of March, next month? We should have a fairly large net income next month in our next report. Here are our Title I, our federal funds. Once again, I want to remind everybody, as I do every week, month, but this expense line here is going to be the same in revenue. It's just that the difference between those two is what we submitted and the money hasn't come in. Hasn't arrived. That's always what that is. Same way with the ESSER 2 funds as well as the ESSER 3. But at the June 30, the revenue and expenses will always match. So I don't see anything in particularly out of line here with the budget. Is there anybody who had any questions regarding the budget?
When does ESSER 3
ESSER 3, do you remember
go away?
Trump, when does it go away? A year from this September. A year from this September.
There are rumblings at the federal level that they may extend the allowable expenditure period, because I think they already did for
They've already
capital
done
outlay.
that. They've done that for capital outlays, yeah.
But if they do announce that, everyone's of the belief that they would not announce that until closer to the deadline because they don't want to encourage people to hoard even longer.
Right. I just, are there any other comments about the budget? If not, I would like to, I went to 4 workshops this last month of March, and in one of them at the legislative auditors, they are now requiring that I report to you as the business director what the status is on everything we had an audit finding on. That needs to be a part of our informational reports so that every month I'll let y'all know what the status is. That's now a requirement. So it's not on the budget. I can do this Thursday, or I can just simply let y'all know right now. I didn't, are y'all okay with me letting them know since it's informational, it's non-voting, or do we just want to do it Thursday?
Thursday's fine.
Thursday's fine? Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I mean, it'll give you a little time to put it together.
Okay. Well, I got it, and I think that's it. All right. And Ms. Page.
I'd just like to say that our recruiting efforts paid off. If you had anything to do with it, back here, up here, thank you. We have hired some people already for next year. We're not going to let them wait and think about it. And we're excited, so that part is done. I would say that we had several people from other districts. I had beautiful pictures, but I didn't want their people to know that they were here during our job fair. But they are coming. We've already gotten that done. We have 2 secretaries in teaching programs. 2 of our secretaries are now in teaching programs, and Ms. Hicks has already pointed out we have a first time ever male cafeteria manager. As you know, next month we will be recognizing our employees of the year, and we're going to include our residents too. We have tried really hard to make them feel the love a little bit better. And I think it has really paid off. We've had more to show interest, and we're going to be able to retain more than we ever have. That's it.
The job fair was fantastic.
It was,
By far the most since I've been here, and I'm sure some of that was COVID, but I think the majority of it was just the HR departments getting it.
somehow we accidentally scheduled it during, you know, the week that some districts were off. I don't know.
Timing is everything.
Yes, it does. Okay, here's your report.
Ms. Page, will y'all be doing the new teacher orientation like you did last year at the event center?
I
Same type of
think
setup?
so, yes, ma'am.
And we actually spoke about new teacher orientation, but there's a need to do the same thing with substitutes, especially with this new personnel system we have and the call-out system for subs that'll be starting next year. But then Ms. Page brought up doing a mid-year new hire, same thing, but for mid-year, because we assume that, hey, we throw them out there, they know what they're doing, but they need the benefit of those things.
We're constantly hiring. I mean,
Yeah.
we're still
Bring
hiring.
somebody in at midterm, they're gonna need it anyway.
Yep.
They need a little refresher.
We did catch it at the first of the year, and they're still learning how to do it.
Yep.
Yes. Do you have any questions? Going once.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Ms. Tankia.
Finance, facilities, services, and insurance. Item A, request to advertise for food, paper, milk, and cleaning products bids. Ms. Hicks. B, salary schedule for 2023. Mr. Wasker.
So as Mr. Wassum's coming up, if y'all recall, when we created this, we said every year we're gonna bring you some updates, and that's what we're bringing you now, is just some minor updates for next year's salary schedule.
Really, no, okay, the schedules and the scales, all this stuff here, this has not changed. This is also subject to any potential raises the governor may give. That is possible, as always, we don't usually hear about that till sometime in June. We have transitioned Mike's, we are about to transition Mike's two workers that currently work for Howard Technologies onto our system. So I have allowed for these two here as to where they would be priced out on the schedule. That would be
And that's
called
based on what they already voted on.
right, and it's already based on what y'all voted on and everything. It's just we needed to put it in the salary schedule to keep in line. We didn't really have any location for tech support, these two positions, so we just clarified that.
Lee, I'd just like to make a correction real quick. The actual title for that position that's pay grade H is Technology Support Specialist. We're going to have to change that. That's what the board voted on and approved to create.
Okay. At our next meeting, it will be corrected. I'll get that corrected. That's good.
H, it's the highlighted one.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question. I have two.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Talking about what we voted on, did we vote on the MFP money being put into the salaries? And two, did we have to vote on it?
Are you talking, okay, there's a thing that was called the MFP money
That's what
that was given in January. That's not really
Like
MFP
that
money.
January check.
The January check, it was rolled into their grant, their,
But to answer your question, Ms. Thinkett, y'all did vote on that as part of the original salary schedule.
last year.
And for,
But we must have didn't have any discussion on it.
We did when we had a retreat. Whenever we had the retreat, we did.
and the reason we felt like it was necessary for y'all to vote on that specifically is because we knew it would be a shock to the system, so we wanted that to be a board vote.
Yeah, okay.
But everybody did receive the money. It was just once a month.
Right, okay, I understand that. But, so when we did these new salary changes, how much money were our employees were supposed to see, like, a month, like more a month? Because what I'm being told is they don't see a difference at all in their
Really?
monthly checks.
So what we find a lot is, depending on people's take home, a lot of times, and this is only anecdotal, I'm not saying this is everyone, when we brought people in to talk about it, we'd say, this was your raise, and let's say it's 3,000. What a lot of people do is they compare it to their W-2. And when you compare W-2s from previous years to this year's, it's not, like we did COVID compensation in one of those years.
The last year was 1,500. We're not doing
So,
that.
so they may not actually see a difference in their overall W-2 because of those extras. The other thing that some folks, and I don't mean to, I hope this doesn't come across condescending to anyone, but what we found is a lot of people will add to their group benefits plan, and then they think that they're going to go up, and they would have gone up, but then that group benefit balances it out. And in some cases, we gave people, in some cases, $3,500, $4,000 raises, and they saw none of it. They saw none of it in their monthly pay because insurance did go up, and then maybe they added a cancer plan or something like that. So what I would say to that is, there are people who may not have seen a monthly increase in their actual take home, but in terms of benefits and taking care of stuff, they did see more. It's not in that dollar bills. The other problem is, and this is why right now with LSBA, there's a big discussion about going outside of OGB, because they are continuously raising insurance rates. Now, what I can tell people is that because we did the raise, that insurance hike, they didn't see as much, but that's a hard pill to swallow, that you got a raise and some of it got swallowed up by just insurance increasing. And that's why, as superintendents and everyone, we are pushing the legislature and the governor to do this $3,000 and $1,500 raise, because the hope is not only will they do that, but then there's another piece of legislation they're doing as well that will free up some money. But if they do that and insurance rates don't go up like they seem to have been doing every year, then people will see more of that chunk of change.
That insurance is gonna go up.
So what was like the benefit for putting the MFP money in it? Like,
So the MFP was paid to you, MFP was meant to be paid to you throughout the whole year. So if you got your MFP check in January and you no longer employed with us in February, you got paid for the whole year in one payment.
So we were
Because
actually
we were prepaying you for the months of, it's only $583, but that was added to the gross pay for certified teachers. It was $300 for everybody else,
so
non-certified.
that it wasn't like some type of stipulation that could have been put in to
This was,
realize that those people who got hired in January and quit in February, but got a check.
if they quit, that we'd have no recourse to be able to go after them.
can't go withdraw money after you've paid it to them.
So was that the reason for putting the money in the?
See, when the MFP was my suspicion is when the MFP was really officially announced, it was a minor amount of money, like $583, and this is years ago. So we set up a tradition in the school board of paying it out in January.
Right.
And instead of rolling it into the grand total where it gets paid out once a month. But if you quit in February, you technically got paid in January for the whole year, but you're not employed anymore.
But I think it was I just think it was more beneficial though to the employees to get that money in January between December and February.
And I
'Cause
think
that's a long stretch.
I think that's why the original decision was made.
It's really like
It did cause a financial bind for a lot of employees. Got a lot of calls, and I asked the question, did we make the decision? So, I don't mean to smile because it did cause a financial strain for people. It was a major adjustment. And I just, since it did impose such a financial strain on people, and I noticed that, well, they were notified and they should have made the adjustment. But if you're accustomed to getting that check, you're looking for it and you don't get it, and it put people in a strain. Well, do we have the option of going back to look at it again, or should we just ride with the decision we made and people just have to deal with it, and I hate to say it like that.
So, as an educator, and I know I have the highest pay in the district, so I'm not on an ivory tower here, but I can assure you that every person who works in the parish, that January month is rough. It was rough when I was a teacher and my wife was, it is rough.
And the check helped.
And it did. I do believe the original intent behind it was to put it at a time that was conducive to what y'all are talking about, but I don't think, and I wasn't here, but I don't think what was thought of is what Mr. Wascom is trying to safeguard the district in total and not pay out money that we shouldn't be paying out. And so he's looking at through that lens. I don't necessarily know if when it was originally put out, it was. Now, what I would say is, although I'm sympathetic to the January situation, because it is 100% statewide, a teacher phenomenon, I would say that we, and I hate to use this terminology, but I do believe we ripped the Band-Aid of change this year, and I believe it'll be something that's more palatable moving forward.
Plan for it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to just leave it like it is right now, because they'll know next year they won't be getting that money, because no matter, they need to budget the.
That's
know how to
easier
budget
said than
these
done
things
for
now.
people who are not in that position. You know, we don't want to count people's money, but I just don't remember us discussing that money being put in that salary schedule like that.
I remember talking about it. I didn't know whether we had made the decision
I don't recall.
at that point. But I do remember talking about it. And I do remember that Mr. Wascom really wanted to put it in, the salary.
So,
It's 12-month money, it's 12-month money we're paying out one time. It would be better, 12-month money be paid out over 12 months, which was designed for and given to us. If you're gonna do a one-time payment, it needs to be like a stipend or something similar to what was done last year with COVID payments, just a one-time, whoever employed at this time. It needs to be done more in that
I
line.
remember one of the things.
So it wasn't anything
If we go
that
back to
could be-
one-time payment, do it if that's the way they want it, do it at the end of the year. That way we know they worked the whole year.
Then you have your incoming in the middle of the year. They're getting paid for the full year when they were.
Right,
there.
right. And I can understand.
You could put a stipulation on there to say they have to be in the parish for 12 months to be eligible for the, I mean, I'm sure, if that was even a question of going back to something like that.
but I
I'm sure
don't
there's
think you necessarily accomplished Ms. Tankia's goal by doing it in July, because
Right. Or you could leave it like it is, and if you're here, you get paid. If you're not, you don't, so.
Just leave it like it is, and they know next year they won't get nothing in January.
Why do we pay Christmas or December pay so early?
so.
With everything being
We
direct
actually,
deposit.
we did discuss this, and I think we went back and forth, and it was around the same time. So we do it actually, so November, we pay out before Thanksgiving, and that's because I think traditionally we want people to have that money, obviously, during that big expense time. Plus, sometimes I think it overlaps to where they wouldn't get their check until like, what, December 1st or 2nd, if we didn't do that. Then in December, you get your sales tax check usually within that first 10 days. I know.
10 to 15 days.
And so then they get paid, I think,
Around the 17th to 18th.
I think this next year it'll be
The last
20.
day for when school is out,
Exactly.
before Christmas break.
So all I can say to that is I don't know of a district that does it differently currently, because every district I've been in, when I was with the state, it was wonderful. They paid us every 2 weeks. But every school district I was with, you had that 6-week period, sometimes 5.5, but it feels like 7 weeks. The only thing you could do is, and I'm speaking for payroll, is you could have it on a timer where it went out later, but this year it's actually gonna work to our advantage, because we get out on the 21st, or
Yeah, late,
we get out late, so they'll get it closer to,
right at Christmas.
but
A week later than
we've
normal.
wrestled with this, and I don't know the answer
I think you would hear a backlash, especially for that Christmas payment, if they weren't getting their check until the end of the month after Christmas. You want to hear a hardship.
Yeah.
People would say they don't have that money available to Christmas shop.
Bottom line is,
We could,
Or the first of the
what we
month.
could do, stay to give them their tax check, just give them their tax check first of January.
I
And
think,
no one, and no one
I think
found
you're
a Mills
waiting on
body.
that. Yeah, you're,
Can you vote on that? I'll be absent that day.
yeah,
so,
you,
I will say this to Ms. Tankia's point.
You too. think it's shooting at me.
We are paying,
Bill said that.
we are paying a very large amount during that time period because they are getting their tax check. It's the smaller one. It's the 5-month one. And they're getting a full paycheck within that time. But there's a lot of people, no matter how old they are, that do struggle because that's the most expensive time of the year. You don't say no to going out to eat. You don't say no to the extra gift for your kid. And there is that desert between there. But at the same time, I would say that that is the time where we pay out the most money to our employees.
I will say that we did announce all this. I sent out a letter to everybody, and also Dr. Eloy made sure it was in the news, our news articles. We did tell everybody for 2 months ahead to remember.
We did, but I'm sensitive to what Ms. Tanki is saying, that whether it's unplanned expenditures, but it is, I think we all can recognize that it is difficult to budget during the Christmas season.
First of the month is a realization, plain and simple. January 1 to January 5 when those bills hit.
Realization.
I mean,
It didn't sink in.
We budget every
Until it
time, and
happened.
then Santa brings 2 or 3 extra things. It's like, okay, there went that. And I think, and then there's also, your washer goes out, your car breaks down. So I don't want to be insensitive to the fact that
Gas
it is
goes to $4.50 a gallon.
It's a long time to make a dollar stretch.
That's not going up again.
I agree. Okay, I would like to, going on to page 8. This, we made a slight change in coordinators here that went from 1.22 to 1.27.
There was like 2 different types of coordinators.
It didn't make sense.
In retrospect, they
were paid differently, but had the same qualifications.
should be on the same
So
thing.
It was a correction. We have official certified notary. We would like to pay her, instead of it being done by how many she certifies, that she's paid $750 a year as a stipend. And then Medicaid coordinator. This is a very important job. When we got a lady in there who was really good at it, we found $400,000 available. So.
And it's a lot.
This is $3,000 for a stipend. Is a lot of work to do. It's a lot of paperwork.
Changing laws.
You're changing laws, as well as working with P&I, statewide auditor for Medicaid. That's a lot of conversations. As a matter of fact, it's going on right now as we speak. It's almost every month we have more audits coming through for Medicaid. So she kind of coordinates this, and it's not a normal thing you would associate with a secretary. So this is an add-on for that. Anyhow, and that's that. And then coming here, Dr. Eloy and I talking about adding a little bit of pay to assistant principals.
If you looked at the high school and middle school assistant principals, there was situations where there was not enough distance from them and teachers. Obviously assistant principals a higher level responsibility, et cetera. And in some cases, if you had enough years, even at 9 months, you were making more than a 10-month assistant principal. So we slightly adjusted that for those. And we think that's the only adjustment we'll have to do on assistants moving forward. We feel good about the other ones.
It's not much of an increase. It's a little bit, but it's an appropriate adjustment. This, with our investment in our arts, you'll see here it says drama program director. This is an investment Dr. Eloy is keen to make in our art program.
Thank you, sir.
So that's a stipend specifically for that. In reviewing the technology facilitator and testing facilitator, we were paying them $600 a year, but there's significant difference between a high school technology and testing coordinator who's busy like all the time and a lower, a school that has much lower staff than 1,100 kids like at Central. So we decided to adjust that with this determination. If your school is at, based on your population, we would pay you this way. And these are 2 very important, and have done well, very valuable stipends and people who do this work. This is very important to us. So it was just based on looking at their effort they were putting out and how much they were being paid, so that it seemed fair.
This feedback came from teachers and principals.
And Mike had a comment about the technology. I think Felicia chimed in on the, as well as the testing. These are all very important things that we do.
I like the next one the most, though.
Okay. we've decided, pay what you want. So if you want teacher with your Teacher of the Year awards, we decided, as we've been doing with coaching, to pay teachers a little bit of financial reward for their achievements in the district and at the state level.
So these teachers this year would be eligible for that?
Technically, this doesn't take effect till July.
July.
If y'all are okay with it, we're welcome.
And
That'd
this
be a
is
great
just
idea.
Parish Teacher of the Year, right?
No, so the 150 would be, is that for parish or is that every one of the school ones?
It was our
One says
district.
district, one says state.
Okay.
So the School Teacher of the Years wouldn't receive.
Are there more than I'm aware of? I was told just district and state.
Oh, they now have region, so. So the question,
Maybe by Thursday I'll have it correct.
well, the question is, and I'm sorry, I misunderstood this, and I read the whole thing before the meeting. I thought we were giving 150 to every School Teacher of the Year. Is that not the case, basically?
That was the idea, yeah.
Oh, that is the idea. So we need to just kind of change the
that.
language on that.
So we'll adjust the language by Thursday's meeting. How about we do, to clarify what this
Every
means?
School Teacher of the Year would get $150. If they win for the entire district, 150. I do think we need to put in language there if they win the state, though.
No, it is there, it's there.
Oh, state?
Teacher of the Year state, $300.
No, that's gonna change though, right? That'd
Yeah,
be
because-
150 for school level.
So, yeah,
Teachers
it
of
should
the
go
Year,
school,
300 for the parish.
district, state. Or should there be region in there as well? 4? Okay, there's. We'll fix it for y'all.
We'll fix it and get back to you on Thursday. I'm
But
sorry. It's good that we
I
talked
do
about it.
think, to Mr. Benefield's point, if y'all would like to, we could make that that piece retroactive for this year. I'd love to do that.
Okay. In light of looking at the football or other athletic events, we would like to announce an additional position. It's not an additional teacher. It's just taking a certain coach and making the coach the athletic director for the junior high feeder schools.
So Lee, and there is a problem because it says for NCHS, but this person actually also, they're dealing with those feeders, but they are doing the scheduling for all the junior highs. So
This just needs to
Correct. They're
become
also doing the
junior
scheduling
high
for the
AD.
entire district.
high AD.
Junior high.
But I didn't want to make it look like that, okay, maybe we should phrase it more carefully, but I didn't want to, the Lakeview, it's not expected that the Lakeview High School would have to provide this. This was supposed to be provided at the Natchez Central.
The person
level.
previously was in this position that we didn't have on this.
Was at Lakeview.
They were at Lakeview and they were scheduling for the whole district. So we just need to change the language on that.
Yeah, historically, the high school AD did it for the parish.
We need it. For years, we've needed a junior high person in charge of scheduling and athletics for junior high,
I see
I
a
would say.
principal out there
This
shaking
is,
her.
yes.
We just this needs to be done because there needs to be a district-wide coordination of our athletic events a little bit
We
better
stripped the
than what we've
language
done.
NCHS off because it
Yeah,
also,
well, we'll just take that off. If you're
includes
okay, we'll
Lakeview.
remove that. I will have to say that Dr. Eloy and I've either been this whole month, why some of this language isn't sometimes worked out well is because I've been gone and then when I get back, he's gone. So we're doing this over the e-text. So it's good that we're getting this worked out here. But what I decided to do here was, this is same as last year. It's just that I wanted it clarified that they get paid after the award has happened, because the moment they come home from the meeting, they're expecting the check in the mail the next day. So I just wanted to say it's been officially awarded, and now we can then issue them their pay. That was just for clarification there. A situation came up, a long-term substitute teacher who is certified. That caught me by surprise this year. We actually have people who are certified, who are retired, who want to just come back and substitute whenever they want to substitute, and they're highly valued. You can't get better value than that for a substitute. That's a certified teacher. So I put this line in here because there was nothing anywhere that dealt with this. And then food service warehouseman, that was one thing we had realized we had not clarified. These are temporary positions, right, Shauna? This is utilizing that, so we would like to at least put that in there as an option in the future. Okay?
So the long-term substitute teacher that's certified,
It sounds strange, but.
yes, it does.
It's a certified teacher who's generally retired,
We had a lot.
who does not want to work full-time as a teacher. Doesn't want all the benefits, doesn't want all that stuff. They just want to come in and work, I think it's 77 hours, is that some? Right, and one lady said she just.
Billing for retired
So that's
person.
They can't come back and teach because it would affect
Day.
their retirement.
Yes.
So a lot of them will sub consistently throughout the years, and a lot of times they'll fall into that long-term sub role too.
They are the most valuable subs we have. So it didn't seem fair to pay them exactly what we were doing with the uncertified. So this is something, but we've had no provision for this, I don't think, ever in our salary schedule. So when it came up, I was scratching my head as to what to do.
All subs are valuable. These are just our most credentialed subs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, for example,
Yes, say that. all the
Someone
time.
Sorry.
sitting in a kindergarten classroom that taught kindergarten for 30-plus years,
4 weeks
you know.
subbed for her without affecting.
So we have some that want to come in and just randomly sub for a certain amount of time, and then they want to quit for one. What's that? All right.
A lot of babies.
A lot of maternity leave,
Maternity leave.
which would mean a lot of long-term subs.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Okay, so that's that. Those are the changes for this year. I would say I like this, bringing this up with y'all every year. I think this is valuable
I
work.
really like this too, because I would say 95% of this came from employees coming to my office, Lee's office. And I just like that because, number one, they feel empowered to do that. And I like the fact that we
Listen.
I like the fact that we were able to listen on, because everything they brought up was
Valuable, yeah.
very valid, so.
Yeah, well, and it shows that everybody is important.
And your voice is heard.
You know.
Well, I had a question since this had come up.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
It might be for, between the superintendent and yourself. And I see where there are different coordinators that are listed, and the guidance counselors are in a separate category, and they don't get the stipend. So can you explain, are they, like, they're paid a specific salary, counselors, or?
So guidance counselors are on a multiplier as well, I believe.
Yes, it's under page 9, under the school administration. So I've broken this down into the central office page and then all the schools.
And to give you an idea on how the multipliers work, you gotta look at a few things. You gotta look at responsibility. So principal obviously would have the highest one. Then you also look at how many staff they supervise, how many students they supervise. So then you're looking at assistant principals, guidance counselors, and you're trying to look at market standards. And you're also trying to say what's Natchitoches. And you're also trying to assess value, which is very difficult because it's not fun to assess people's value, but you're basically saying how big is their responsibility, how many people do they supervise, and if they're out for a few days, how integral to the day-to-day operation. I think most of us would agree that a principal day-to-day is more integral than the AP. Now, that being said, yeah, exactly. We would love to pay them all the same, but we have to kind of discern their value with using those kind of variables.
So is we do have contract employees, like therapists and
Yes, ma'am.
Is a counselor, that's a 12-month employee, why would they not be entitled to get a stipend like some of the other?
So I think,
that you-
are you referencing maybe an email you received?
Yeah.
That's gonna come up on another area.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's a
I was kind of wondering, Ms. Todd.
Yeah.
situation.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We're gonna get the answer to
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I will have corrections next Thursday to approve. But But this is generally, everybody, so this is ours next year doing it. Everybody, I like this process. I'm really happy with it because we're able to nitpick it and figure out it's amazing how many times you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. And so this is I like this system. And I will tell you that I've been to to LASBO, a meeting, and all the other districts kind of wondering where we're going to slow down. And so they're nervous about our salary schedule, and it's kind of fun to see. I like being competitive. So I feel like to y'all, we're competitive with this salary schedule, and we're able, based on the finances, we're able to afford it. So I'm really happy about this.
And Ms. Page is stealing their people. Thank you.
That's what they're nervous about.
Well, we used to lose people all the time.
Yes, we did.
Have we lost any secretaries this year?
Don't jinx us.
No? Well, okay, no, I don't mean lost them. The advancing is perfect. I just want to say we haven't lost any. We were having a hard time with secretaries. We haven't, and we were having a hard time with the custodial staff and different other things, and we haven't it's been nice. We haven't had as many problems. It's been, so.
Ms. Palmer?
That concludes, we already did that, right? So that concludes finance.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Danzy?
Item 6A, discuss and consider amending policy of GBRH and DJD concerning out-of-state travel.
Okay, so, yes, sir. If you pull these up, what we did is we basically took those two policies and we put in place what y'all had discussed. It's in red. So for instance, any out-of-state emergency travel request costing more than $25,000 for the event or $7,500 per person will be brought to the board. And that's exactly what we discussed in that previous meeting. In the following policy, we basically had to put the same language. We did make another change. So if y'all remember the last meeting, we got a request that was 30 days prior for the travel, but they hadn't considered when our board meeting was, so it ended up being too close. So we put in there as well, requests for out-of-state travel must be submitted to central office 30 days prior to travel and by the 20th of the month prior to the month the approval will be voted on by the board. I still imagine that's going to be hard to get in, but we felt like it was necessary that if we want that to happen, to put it into policy. So I feel good about where we're at with this. So my understanding of this is if it's under that $25,000 cap or the $7,500 per person, I will approve it. Anything above and beyond that goes to y'all. And that's the purpose behind these policies.
One other thing we talked about revising.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, while you're clapping.
No, I thought you were going to ask about the insurance.
Yeah, that was it, because we talked to the insurance agent the day after the meeting, and he confirmed that there's really no need for that language in here.
Correct.
So,
I just didn't mess with that because when I talked to Lee, he said, we're good on the insurance. So I kept it in there, but we can remove that as well.
yeah, because it does say in the amount set by the board, amount of liability to carry set by the board, and that was something that we didn't.
Which paragraph was that?
Anyone traveling in their personal vehicle?
Second paragraph.
So would you want me to delete the entire second paragraph?
No, wait, hold on a minute. Well, I think we discussed the language of shall be required to carry liability insurance in the amount set by state law or state statute.
Minimum state law, minimum state.
So
Yeah,
change it to set by state law.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. To minimum state values, whatever they are at the
Can
time.
make that
Right.
change for Thursday. Minimum step by state law. Okay.
Because we're covering anything over that if they're traveling on our behalf.
Now, is this policy in regards to, group funds or general fund?
This has to do with like if you're traveling in your car and Russ is traveling in, oh, okay.
Going back to the,
So it
Having
doesn't
a
matter if
state.
it's coming from federal or general, if say we do federal and we do NIAT and it's 5,000 a person, then I would not go to y'all. But say it's 7,501, I will come to y'all. So that's federal funds. Say it's general, I'll do the exact same process. no matter what the funding source is.
It's the dollars determined.
The amount of out-of-state travel today versus what it was many years ago is just tiny.
I just remember part of the conversation being like if it were FBLA taking the kids, it was FBLA funds. And I knew we had discussed it, I just didn't know where we would come to it. Okay.
Now, I will say this, typically, like, if it's student, like, for instance, let me talk about Disney. We got no amount per student because that was all from student, it wasn't even student activity funds, that was all personal. So I would not bring that
No.
before y'all. Okay. Because there's no funds attached to it from the district.
So how are employees covered in local when they travel from school to school? Or work, from here to the school?
They're in their personal vehicles, they would have, their
Well,
personal
so-
Mileage.
And then we would, I'm sure there's a piece of our,
But they're on work time, so if they, God forbid, they have a wreck, their personal insurance have to cover their car and their bodily injury.
To their
No,
limits.
the, if you don't mind saying, the policy has a non-owned feature, which is a liability that covers anyone running errands for the school board office. So it's called, hired and non-owned auto. And we did discuss that being included in the policy.
okay, well, I'm sorry, that was news. That's why we.
Yeah.
have Ms.
So,
Reba.
so from what he said, their insurance would be primary. Anything above that would go under that coverage.
So they
Hired
still
and
are the
non-owned
primary.
coverage, yeah.
Because some people have different rates of insurance coverage, and we didn't want to say you couldn't travel unless you had this high rate that we would require. So what we're doing, my understanding was our insurance will cover anything over their minimum, at least anything they have, but theirs is primary, because it was their vehicle and their
Operation.
Right.
That was
Operation.
our errand.
It's a good question, Ms. Tenke.
Okay, with that. Item 6B, consider a study of alternative schedules, calendars for 23-24 year. Mr. Harrison, Mr. Benefield?
I'm going to refer to Mr. Benefield, but I want to say that we have spent a lot of time and hours trying to make sure that we look forward, insight, with foresight, and not, be knee-jerking by the time something like this would come up. So we've been looking at it for a long time.
We have been discussing it. In fact, 4 years ago, almost to this month, we tossed out the idea of having a study very similar to this and look at if this would be appropriate for Natchitoches Parish and would it benefit us. And this is what I'm asking, the same thing. Is this something, now there's a lot of districts surrounding us and in the state and in the nation that have leaped head first into this. And I don't think that's the right thing to do immediately. I think take a look at what benefits and what problems it's going to create, if it does create anything. But there's a lot of districts throughout the nation that have seen a lot of improvement with a 4-day week, with people and retention and overall the mental health thing. I think that we hear a lot of, So I just want the board to step back and let's talk about what this will get us if we look at it for a year. And then at that point, is this something we can sit down and say, we really want to look at this and move forward, or it's not going to work for us simply because of the following reasons?
Right. And, involving our stakeholders, I think, is one of the most important things to do. I've had calls from Wynn Parish, and some of you all may have gotten some calls too about what they did, which I don't think was the wisest way to go forward with it.
You're right.
Parish, there has been a whole lot nationwide, and I think that we have done some due diligence by putting something forward to us to look at, and then take about a here to actually, pace ourselves and look at some things. Because, I think there's some things coming down the trail that going to say to us, we need to look, at some different things.
So clarify.
The way we deliver public education.
I think that Dr. Brumley also is gonna put out some clarification too on what that fifth day looks like.
So clarifying question, because I see the Times writing diligently, and I just, for my own edification, but also for the readers, this is a study that would be conducted over a year, and say you come to the conclusion that you recommend 4-day week, that would not be until 24-25 school year. That it would
That's correct.
just want to make sure we're on the same.
There's gonna be a whole lot of work being done from the board, plus committees and things like that, plus us going out into the communities and things. We wanna hear from, everyone.
We wanna use anyone else's misstep if we move forward to put together a solid plan.
One thing that I would be extremely interested in is us actually closing the door on a third high school. We still have a consultant hanging out there with information that he has not delivered to us yet. So I would love to see us close the door on something before we jump into something else. And not saying we're jumping, because a year is a great time to study, but we still have that hanging out there.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I spoke to Mr. Hefner this morning, and he got some final information from us, and he said he will have his entire study completed. He said within the next 2 weeks. So I should have that for y'all for the May board meeting, right? April, May, yes.
With the study, we will be watching and looking at things from afar on what other people are doing. This is not an active, we're not going to a 4-day week immediately, but what we're doing is that we're gleaning information from these other districts around us. You know, Avoyelles went through it and then they ended up with COVID, so they don't have an accurate representation. They also have a lot of charter schools. But there are other districts around the state that have moved in this direction, and they're doing quite well with it. Some of these folks have been engaged in this. Now, they're much smaller districts than us, so we need to take that into account too.
I think Caddo has maybe several of their schools who has a pilot program, and as we already know, Red River went fully done.
Well, and I've expressed to y'all, I agree that not jumping headlong into, and it's not something that I'm super educated in on the studies and everything, but I look forward to looking into all the data and the studies, the literature. The one thing that I want to be very adamant about saying is that I want to be very protective in this process of the block scheduling at the high schools. Because that is something that our students, when I was in Rapides, we weren't on the block schedule, at least at the time. They may be now, I don't know. And our students only had so many opportunities, 28 opportunities to get their credits for high school. And one of the things that we do well in Natchitoches is our graduation rate compared to others. And I think that's in large part due to the 4 extra credit hours. You have 32 chances to get those credits. And I just, on the outset, I just want to be very protective of that because it's my baby. But
And again, this may not work, but this is information only. I mean, it's not going to hurt us. But it can only help us.
no, I think y'all are being very
Right, and I think.
pragmatic and cautious.
I think we really need to have some conversations with law enforcement. And when you talk about mental health for some kids does include going to school 5 days a week. They don't have the best home life or, situations at home, but I think we should definitely consider our crime issues, our juvenile crime that we have. I hate to say that, there's a lot to consider, so I hope that we consider bringing in law enforcement to talk about that, and even Boys and Girls Clubs, some places like that who are hands-on with children. So I hope that we include that.
I think everything is on the table. has to be on the table to look at.
We gotta have a round table discussion to include all of those people, because as she said, it is gonna affect, kids been out in the community, if we get to that point. And then you have programs and activities and, you know, options for them, recreation and things of that nature. I think we talked about telehealth. If we get to that point that we run into a situation where it's affecting the children, that should be available to them, hopefully, if it's possible, that day that they're out, that fifth day. You know, we have to consider that this is gonna be a major adjustment, and they should have it available to them year-round, days, holidays, and things of that nature, if it's feasible for us to do that.
Right, and before we jump the gun, again, there's going to be a whole lot of different variables, a whole lot of different discussions. So the idea of people's mind being already made up, if you're closed-minded about it, then this is not gonna work for you no way. But if you're open-minded, one way or the other, to hear everybody's spiel, and then once you have all the information, wisdom teaches knowledge how to act. And I've always said that. What you have acquired with all of the knowledge that we got, that we don't have much knowledge at all right now about it, unless there's somebody here who's did an extensive study on it. And I know with me wanting to just look at it, I've probably done more, Mr. Benefield probably have done more in looking at the pros and cons, but we're not sitting here telling you what you need to do, because that would be wrong.
Again, this is just the study to look at it and consider it. We're not gonna make any move until sometime next year, and at that point, we'll have some of the data to pull together to say, you know, this is something we possibly as a board need to debate, or we need to just go ahead and drop the subject.
Well, and just a reminder, we do try to start formulating the next year's calendar in late November, early December, so just a heads up on that.
If I might add, a couple of weeks ago, I was at Glasgow, as I mentioned before. They had a roundtable discussion about the 4-day week versus 5-day week. It seems like to me, and this was just the business managers talking, that there's some that did it very well and were very successful, and there were some that failed. It would be helpful in this to figure out why it fails in this parish and why it's successful in this other
That's
one.
right.
Because I couldn't tell you why, but they did say that, we hate it, or in some say it's the best thing we've ever done.
Then
There has to be a reason why it was successful in one and a failure in another.
I think every parish, for the most part in this state, is very diverse, and it's hard to compare, you know, Red River to DeSoto, or DeSoto to Natchitoches, or Natchitoches to Grant, and I think that's what this is about, is saying, would this work or would it not work?
we have to answer the why in the beginning. That's what we have to do. We have to ask why we want to do this or why we don't want to do it. In the very beginning.
It's either gonna be beneficial or
Right.
not.
Right.
And I look forward to hearing, what y'all come up with.
No.
Ms. Tankey, we'll be making
gonna
some,
be
we'll
very
be making some field trips.
Come on, French, speak with us. We
will be making some field trips, Ms. Tankey.
Item 6C, discuss and consider amending Natchitoches Magnet Site Code status.
Okay.
Benefield, Mr. Matoir.
So would y'all like me to lead into it?
You wanna go ahead?
Yes, sir. So LDOE has two designations, and I'm sorry, we have Ms. French here, so Ms. French, whenever I get done with my little spiel, if you want to add to this, feel free. So a few things. LDOE has two designations for educational entities. One is a program, one is a school. That being said, there is no real difference between these two things. It also, if you look at the trajectory of the state, most magnet educational entities are being created as programs. Furthermore, most of these programs are being, if they create a magnet school, they're being created in a place with a large population, a Caddo, an EBR, a Jefferson. Because what people realize is that, not what people realize, the point of a true magnet is to give students opportunities that they don't currently have, while at the same time not being competitive with the sending schools. It is no fault of anyone here, no fault of Magnet, no fault of anyone, but currently the structure we have is that Magnet is in competition, not a malicious thing, but it is in competition with these other schools. The original intent, and some of you were on the board at that time when Magnet was created, was to create a magnet school where the students' scores stayed with their sending schools. After a lot of digging and research, I believe that was a decision made by the desegregation judge, who I don't know this gentleman, I'm sure he's a wonderful person, but I don't know if they understood that part of accountability, because if you go back to that point, the accountability at the time was very new. It changed every 3 or 4 years, so he probably just said, no, just, made that decision. I know it's the will of some on this board to go to the original intent of what Magnet was. And I feel as though it embodies what a true magnet is. I've talked to principals and teachers of these other schools, and at times they're not mad at Magnet, they're not upset with Magnet, but they say, hey, we spent the last 2 years with this kid, we grew their reading score, and as soon as they got to a certain level, they went to Magnet. And hey, that's a testament to what Ms. French and her staff do over there. I speak no ill of them, and they're rock stars. But at the same time, I understand both points of view. The only way I think you can do this, and I expressed this to Ms. French, is that, and her staff today, is would this benefit the district? I do believe it would. But you can only do it if it benefits the district while at the same time not diminishing Magnet at all. So I told her staff today, and I told her there'd be no change in their funding. In fact, actually, probably a little bit of a funding increase, and it's boring Title I information, but it'd be possible that'd be a possible increase. There's still going to be Natchitoches Magnet. There's still going to be the Mustangs. Because they're not part of LHSA, they're junior high elementary, sports would still be able to exist completely how they do now.
They'll still have their own SPS score,
So
generated internally, right?
it would be generated by the district. The one thing I can say that would change is they would not get an LDOE issued school performance score. But we have the ability, while working with Dr. Baird and her team at LDOE, to generate that score ourselves. And when that score is generated, we would still promote that score as equally as anyone's score. I believe Magnet is an A, will continue to be an A, and will always be an A. And so there'd be no benefit to us not espousing that from the mountaintops. But this also, and I think Ms. French put it very well, she told me, she said she believes that this would help recruit students. And I said, well, hey, I like that idea, but tell me why you feel that way. And she said, not that any principal at any other school would ever tell a student not to go somewhere, but you might, if I'm the principal at Fairview Alpha, I might say, hey, we'd love to keep you here. We want you here at Fairview. Instead, because the scores follow the student or stay with the school, that student, that same principal may not say, stay here. Instead, they may say, hey, go grab that opportunity, because there's nothing keeping them from wanting them to do that. There's probably a lot of questions. I spent better part of an hour with the staff over there, and they asked some really good questions. They said, does it change their pay? No. Do they still get scored on how they teach and VAM scores? All that stays the same. Literally, I can tell you with 100% certainty that this does not change the teacher experience, the principal experience, and first and foremost, it does not change the student experience. Everything that we currently offer will be maintained. So, Ms. French, would you like to?
Sure, absolutely. Like to hear the input.
I'm going to keep this short because it's freezing in here. Dr. Eloy called me yesterday. We were both at work, as typical principals and superintendents do on their breaks. But I think he was a little surprised with my reaction yesterday to it, because I was like, when he told me what we were talking about with changing the code, I was like, okay. And I think he was a little bit surprised. Yeah, like he was ready to duke it out. But honestly, my two questions were funding and resources as far as teachers and the programs we offer our students. Because as the steward of Natchitoches Magnet School, my responsibility is to those students, and it always will be, no matter if we are a program or a school or how LDOE calls us. That's not going to change. Our teaching is not going to change. Our level of devotion to our kids is not going to change. But what I do think would change from this is I think it would garner a sense of cooperation among our schools that we don't necessarily have. And I know it's not a personal thing. I try, sometimes I do take it personal, but I know it's not a personal thing, but I also know, and I told Dr. Eloy, if I was at a school and I had some bright kids who could be pushed, and I knew I could send them into a program that could push them further than I could, I would send them if I knew I got my scores back and it benefited my school. And so I do see, I love all the fellow principals. We joke, we talk, we, play around just like all colleagues do. But I do see it as an opportunity for us to work together and not against each other. And I do understand, because we work with some kids too, and when they go somewhere else, we're like, dang, they were part of our family. So I totally see it from both sides. The thing it'll change for us is not having that published LDOE, you're an A school. But honestly, we know what we do, and everyone knows what we do. And the students and how they do and how they perform speaks for itself. And so there's a little bit of humility that, some feelings might be hurt for a minute because of humility, but in the end, it's what's best for children, and that's the most important thing. So I think some of my teachers are even kind of surprised that I was chill about this, but I do think it's going to make our entire parish better, and that's what we need. Y'all have any questions?
Once a Mustang, always a Mustang.
I want to say it can do nothing but help those relationships between those other schools and the magnet school here. And I'm not going to say there's been some sense of animosity, but there's always that, when you're losing a kid to another school, it's tough at times. This would have the possibility of being a very, very positive thing. And I can say, even from my experience as a principal, when I was at Weaver that first year, and we were looking at end-of-year data, and sitting with my master teachers, and we're going over kindergarten scores, and the master teacher at the time said, now you have to remember, the kindergarten students on these levels, on this side of the page, will not be here next year. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, only these students. I said, well, all of these students are way below level. She said, yes, sir, that's the case. So I said, you're telling me we're starting in first grade with all students severely below level, and anybody we had that was above level is gone? She said, yes, sir, that's what I'm telling you. So just the difference that it will make at those schools is significant on that test score side.
Exactly. And Mr. Nicholson, what you're saying, the homeschool.
So the class rosters, yeah. The class rosters will still be tied to the teacher. So those scores will still go to teachers at Magnet. So they'll still get their VAM score and all that.
But it would be calculated through our offices.
No, ma'am. The VAM scores would still go through the state. Because.
No, it's a separate code.
Mm-hmm.
Because you no longer have a site code.
Correct. So it's. But the teacher for their scores, the teachers would still receive that. They wouldn't even have to. So this is kind of back end stuff on J campus, but the schools that do this around the state, Iberville, Point Capee, who just recently done that. They put in structures within J Campus that make sure that the teachers still get their VAM scores and those are reported to the state in the normal fashion. We would not have to do any calculation of VAM. The only calculation we would have to do at the district level is for a district performance score, or a school performance score. Correct. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, that would be correct. That would not happen. No, correct. And that was a question today from they said, well.
But no, that's great questions, though.
They did ask
Great
that
questions.
exact question. They said for performance pay and 100%, it's a lot of minutia on the data management system side that has to be taken care of, but it's perfectly, the logistics are there to do it. It's stuff I don't necessarily even understand, but Ms. Theus does it, and it magically does what it's supposed to.
And then on the Title I side, that's a whole different.
Now, the Title I, yes, we will have to calculate that internally. Yes, ma'am.
So to echo what Mr. Nicholson was saying, before the banding, East was 4 through 8. And not all, but East had the highest per capita student in Magnet of any school. And so essentially your A students were all in Magnet. So that means your school started roughly with a B. So how are you gonna raise those scores? And when once the state superintendent sealed the deal and said, we're gonna make it its own school, and gave it the number, those scores never went back to the home school, which was the original intent. So now you have other schools who have lost, like Mr. Nicholson, lost their start. And plus, yourself, role models, great behaving students. I mean, you have those people walk in the halls, and you want those role models in your school. And so this is a win-win for everyone. And Ms. French hit it right on the head. I mean, she's dead on with the positive aspects of what this is going to bring.
Yeah, because that was one reason I voted for it, because it said it was gonna scores go back to the school, and I think most of the board members, that was the reason they voted. And then the next year, 1 year or 2 years?
2 years.
2 years, then they took away, and it was even proven fact that some of the schools did the scores where the kids that had left their school, if the score would've went back to their school, they'd have been a whole letter grade higher than what they was. And that's what, then the superintendent kept saying, no, we couldn't do it, you know?
So, so there was 1 year.
That's the reason it was voted, because it was supposed to go.
You're absolutely correct. That's how it was advertised. It was sold as that those scores will go back
To the home school.
schools, because at the time they were thinking it would be a brain drain on Natchez Parish by sucking.
And that's what I told the teachers today. I said, listen, this is where everywhere in the state's going. The only difference for us right now is that this school was created 16 years ago, and we're doing something retroactively, but I feel as though it's the right thing to do, because it was the original intent behind that board. And it's what other districts are doing, because they wanted to prevent the drain, because you did see, to some degree, I think, I told the teachers today, I said, Magnet is amazing. I'm glad it was created. But there was some unintended consequences of its creation that I do think this would remedy. And so that's my spiel to y'all. I will say this does require going through the processes with LDOE. They have no statutory authority here, but it still is a process. So the idea is to have this ready. They would still have an SPS score from the state this November, but we would have this prepped and ready for the following November. But, I will say this, LDOE can slow the gears if they wanted to some degree. But we would go through that process and work that process if the board votes in the affirmative.
I do remember your interview when you first came here. You said you didn't want a couple of schools to be propping the whole system up. I remember that.
That was his opening line.
It's your
Mr.
opening
Harris.
line. You said you recognized that.
Yeah, he said y'all are
that you
whatever
wanted
district
to be able to
propped
do
up
something
by
about
But
it.
three schools.
I also want to be clear because I know some people could say that they could say, well, you're sending scores to school. In some cases, maybe a pre-K student spends 3 years at or 4 years at Magnet. They've never been to another school, and their scores will get sent over there. And there's nothing I can really say against that. But what I think what we have to realize is school improvement is not just something that happens overnight. Although we're seeing it at Weaver and East and LP, we're seeing those scores change. We're seeing it in JH. But if you ask a principal, and I don't want to impose on Mr. Nicholson or Ms. Page or any of our former principals in the room, but if you can prime the pump, the momentum that causes, and also the attracting of employees. Some people look at that and they say, you're an F school, I'm not going to you. You're a D school, I'm not going to you. So if you can increase those scores through this methodology, and then potentially get some people who say, oh man, Weaver's a C, Weaver's a B, whatever that may be, I think this starts your momentum to really see some change and also attract to attract high quality candidates to these schools that sometimes they don't always want to go to schools because they have that letter in front of their name. And I'm sure you experienced that. I know Ms. Page probably did at Clucheville, all those things.
It has a great deal to do with people coming in looking at the town. I can tell you because I've been riding in the vehicle with them before.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, this is an A school. Oh,
What neighborhood is this? Yeah, where's the house? Yeah.
Has a great deal to do with teachers wanting to come work at your school
Right.
too. That's why
That's
we're
right.
paying incentives,
That's right.
you know, to come to some, absolutely.
But this also doesn't just affect city schools. I mean, to their credit, Magnet has students from all around the parish. I mean, Fairview kids, Goldana kids, Marthaville, Provençal, so.
Used to have a lot of problems.
And I want you to know, I'm unapologetic about the fact that all three of my children went to Magnet. And every last one of them. I ran for office on the fact that I wanted every last student in Natchitoches Parish to have an opportunity and experience that my children have. They're not any smarter than any other children. They just got exposed to opportunities that some children are not don't have that opportunity. But I would like for all children to have that opportunity, and then you can compare. But if they're not all given the same opportunity, you can't compare.
So the final thing, I want the board to kind of collectively shake their heads in agreement with this, because today, when I met with Magnet staff, they were very concerned, because all they knew, there was a meeting with the superintendent, so they had no idea. And so imaginations ran wild. And I told them, I said, guys, I want you to leave this meeting. And I said, I'll swear on anything. I said, I'm not going to be sacrilegious, but I'll swear on whatever book you want me to do. I want you to know that in no way, shape, or form is Magnet as a school under attack, because there were some concerns of, well, is this we're attacking Magnet? Are we wanting to do something in the school? Really, this is indicative of all the good work they've done. And so I just want to reiterate, and board, if you feel the need to echo my sentiments, that this is not an attack on Magnet whatsoever.
I hope it gives them an opportunity to have more magnets even, you know? Because we've always talked about that too, giving them an opportunity to have more magnets to attract.
Well, and part of the discussion, I spoke with the Point Capee who just did this. I think the next stage for Magnet, and I've even shared this with Ms. French, is we have to look at they already have the arts, which is great, but we have to give them another program, whether it's STEAM or STEM or something that sets them apart even more than what they currently are. But that's a discussion with her and her staff and us, where we say, what is that? And I always go to STEAM because it's so ubiquitous around the nation right now, but there's something else that they need to get to make them even more of a magnet.
Right.
Okay. Item 6D, discuss and consider amendments to CIR incentive and relocation incentive programs.
Okay, so we never want to be static. So if y'all recall, we did the CR payments and we did the incentive stuff. And what we saw last year, Ms. Page, I think it was between an 8 to 12% increase in certified teachers. I can't remember your exact slide. For some reason, I want to say 10%, but I know it was between 8 and 12. So it worked for us last year. And I think besides just getting teachers, it also showed that we were being, it continues to paint this image that we as a district are pro-teacher, and we're trying to compensate people if they have the qualities and they come here. So the first one is on the relocation stipend, there's a few major changes. Number one, I added more money at the highest end. Now, let me tell you, before you say, oh my gosh, we're going to be handing out $20,000 to people. That is the highest, these are rock stars. These are people with 4 VAMs, multiple years of this. It means that they are legit. Also, if they get those 2 highest categories, the 15 or the 20, we would not pay them out in one lump sum. We would split those in 2 separate years. The other thing that we've changed from this year, so we added the 20,000 mark, but we also have said, and Mr. Benefield actually put this bug in my ear last year, and I was kind of against him initially, but I think we found a way to do it without, where we both are happy. We want to open this to in-district relocation, as long as they're not coming from schools that are hard to staff or are CIR, because that would be shooting ourselves in the foot. But if you're at Natchitoches Central, and nothing against Micah Coleman, but I know it's easier for him to recruit at Central than it may be at Goldana, or it may be at East, or something of that nature. He could possibly lose 2 positions, and he's probably listening to this fussing at me. But he could possibly lose 2 positions to these schools that are in greater need and replace those more easily, where those 2 positions at these needy schools, or more urgently, that's life-changing to them. Sorry. That's life-changing to them to get a few of these staff. And so the other cool thing about this, guys, is by saying this, there's been some people upset about these incentives. Oh, I don't get this money. Every person in this parish is open to either the relocation or the CIR. So every person, if they said they didn't get it, it's because they chose not to go to a place that was offering it. Now, we couldn't say that last year, because Mr. Benefield brought up, he said, well, what about in-district people? And I don't even remember my reason, but I had a reason. But this year, everyone has this opportunity. And again, it's Ms. French is left, so I can say this. She could lose a teacher over there, and they could go to LP Vaughn, and she can replace that based on that reputation more easily sometimes than Carissa can, even as amazing as Carissa is. So I believe in this. I believe in this because this really sets every school in terms of recruitment on even playing field. Because yes, there are people who will only want to go to lab. It's a wonderful school. It's great. But if I offer you $20,000 because you have a 4 VAM to go to Weaver, that's going to make you think a little bit. So the other item is the CIR. So I actually was talking to Mr. Fredu, and he had someone call him, and it brought up an inconsistency in our policy that was going to be concerning. And I won't fill you in all the details, but it made me go back to the workshop on this. And there are 2 schools. So Lakeview, we know after last year's discipline, they are now CIR for discipline. So we want to add them to the CIR for discipline, but we're actually kind of changing the term from CIR to CIR/hard to staff. And there are 2 schools that are either CIR or hard to staff that we wanted to add to this list. Lakeview's one. They're really not as hard to staff, although I would say they're hard-ish to staff, just because I don't understand it. I'm not from Natchitoches, but some people don't want to cross that river. But Lakeview is also CR, so we would like to add them to the 3rd year, which I did add the dates on the 3 years, because if y'all remember, year 1 was last year, year 2 is this year, they're getting paid out in June. Year 3, we would like to add Lakeview to that 3rd year. We'd also like to add Goldana. Goldana is our most remote campus, and they have a lot of struggle. They have a lot of benefits. I'm not going to lie to you. They have great class sizes, all those things, but even with that, it is a struggle sometimes to staff that school, because it used to be everyone who worked at Goldana lived in Goldana. It's not the case anymore. We're having to get people, in some cases, I mean, Miss Corey Beth lives out in Natchez. She's driving an hour and 15, if not more, there, and then another hour and 15 back. We want to attract people and say, if you stay at Goldana, or if you come to Goldana, we want to give this to you as well. So that's the thinking behind it. we know that the principals last year, when they utilized this, the two I keep rolling out, Crystal Davis and Armitrius Williams, they utilized this. They changed the culture of their staffs in 1 year. So we're doing it on a district level. We're pushing them, but this is also, we've told every principal, we sat down with them in the staff and we say, this is your year to get the people you need, your dream team. And I think this is the tool to do it. All this was done, I talked to Ms. Rachel. These changes are able to be done in the ESSER budget. She's fine with it. We had a few meetings about it, so all that's good. I will bring up what Ms. McGaskey had brought up earlier. There are some questions as to who's entitled to these dollars. I hope y'all realize by now, I'd love to give it the bank to everyone. I just believe teachers is the hardest job, support staff, the hardest job, all those things. But one of my toxic traits is I want to give everyone everything. And I got to stop that. Because when you look at this, the original intention behind the CR payments was to staff for struggling schools, hard to staff schools, and it was specifically for teachers. We have a group that we already do not give that money to, the instructional specialists, who are classified as teachers. But we felt as though we had no problem recruiting instructional specialists, so we did not give them the money. We also felt like there was a little bit of a slippery slope that if we give it to instructional specialists, counselors, APs, principals, in the language of ESSER, and Ms. Rachel, would you mind coming and speaking a little bit to that, the language of ESSER and what we can or can't do based on what we currently have proposed to the state?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Let's save the best for last. It's been a long evening. The approved initiative states that it's compensation to certified teachers for working in a CIR school. And we listed out those schools, and we also provided a budget for that. As Dr. Eloy mentioned earlier, we have now refigured the budget based on what we paid out and looking at what we currently have in the bank. And so the approved initiative is research-based to support students who are taught, that speaks to students who are taught by highly qualified, certified teachers significantly outperform those who are not.
And that's why what she just said is very important too, because we had some people who said, well, I'm on a TAT or I'm not fully certified, and we had to say, well, they don't get it. It's because of the language of ESSER where it says highly qualified, where we had to make sure it was going to specifically certified, fully certified teachers.
And it also, with ESSER, it has to assess and address academic needs and accelerating learning. Specifically, it has to be research-based, and you have to provide the evidence to support that this initiative is improving academic performance. So ESSER is not, it's not just a free-for-all. We have all of this money out there. We can spend it on anything that we want. It has to fall under that allowability of being necessary. And like I was telling Dr. Eloy, not necessary in the sense that we think, oh, we should have this. It should be done, but necessary in the sense that you can track the academic return that it is having, that investment. And we have to, during my ESSER reporting periods, and I'm sorry, it's freezing in here, so I'm shaking. During my ESSER reporting periods, I have to provide evidence to support those things, that this initiative, specifically paying out our teachers for our hard-to-staff schools, we are seeing an academic return for our students. And so we looked at a lot of research. We looked at the importance of having a consistent, high-quality staff. And so if you look at over the next 3 years, if we can get someone in there, and our principals are doing a great job of attracting those people and keeping them, so you have the power of having this, having a certified math teacher in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. It's nothing like it. You have 1 year, I think it says the research, 1 year of a teacher that may not be as high performing, that can set a student back 2 or 3 years. And so we're seeing this turnover. So there's so many reasons why we landed on teachers here, and it was approved. And so I know it's been a long evening, but I want to say this. When we think about making adjustments, I want you to consider when you deviate from the intended and approved proposal, it can result in reducing funding from other initiatives. So it's a domino effect. Right now, all of our ESSER money is allocated.
So I think thank you, Ms. Reschel, that was very, spot on. What we could tell you is, if the board wanted to go in a different direction to add people to this pot, and that's at y'all's discretion, we would first have to redo everything we've done and see if it would pass LDOE.
Correct.
I don't know if it would or wouldn't. It's genuinely up to their interpretation, because these ESSER guidelines, some are very black and white. Most of them, though, are within interpretation of LDOE. And so I don't think me and Ms. Reschel are going to tell you that no counselors, principals, assistant principals could not get this. But what we're going to tell you is, we feel as it's important to vote on this piece, and if you want us to revisit that, we would have to go back to kind of square one and see if it's even possible, and then see what type of budget impact that would have, and see if that budget impact would be even possible within this. So
We're going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul at some point, because the money is, running out. And so I'll be the first to tell you, I feel as if all of our educators should make 6 figures. And so it's not personal at all when we talk about targeting the teachers and not the other amazing individuals that makes all of this happen. We can definitely argue that our employees address those social emotional needs at every level, from our janitors all the way to our principals, our superintendent, everyone. And if we could, we would give them all additional compensation for the work that they do. But I do want you to just kind of consider these things that will take place. We would need to find a research. It has to be evidence-based research to support that this strategy, adding in another addition to teachers, counselors, or whatever the case may be, as well as the impact it's going to have on other initiatives, because we have zeroed out we haven't spent all of our ESSER money. We have a great plan in which to do so. And so we have that strategically planned out. It's at 0 across the board in my grant management system. So once we start making adjustments, we're going to have to figure out what's going to have to go.
Ms. Reschel and Dr. Eloy, the final 3rd bullet, teachers must remain at the same CRO school over a period of 3 years unless there's a district declared some sort of relocation for them. And we're adding a couple of schools, and they'll only be eligible for 1.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something there to split that over 2 years, or is there just a one and done, so they're out there for that 1 year, take the money and run, or
no,
what?
so on the CR, they would get, we still make them sign 2-year contracts on those.
Because they're only eligible for the last year,
Yes, sir.
the 7.
Yeah, we still ask
But your
them.
bullet says all the full time.
Let me
Let's
correct
see
some of that
that.
language for y'all for Thursday.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, that's a
So 24,
third bullet.
2024 would be the end of that.
So they'll actually receive it, so the final CR payment they would receive June of 24. And then nothing after that, because September 24, everything has to be spent.
By September 30th of 2024, we need to have our money spent and requested. Yes.
Are we looking at, say we got these schools hard to get employees out there? Is administration is the reason they not getting out there? Have we looked at that if,
I saw it.
maybe the principal,
So when we labeled these, we put, and I was talking to a board member today, and I said, I think I think it's, what we're saying is hard to staff, they have people there. Hard to staff in terms of certificated people. We looked at this over a period of time that predates, in some cases it predates the current principals, in some cases we went back 1 or 2 principals behind. And what we found is these are places that traditionally, even prior to me, under the previous administration, had significant, for example, lab right now, it's been 100% certified forever. Whereas East,
Lab was supposed to be masters only.
yeah.
So, I
And
mean, they
so-
should be certified.
So these are schools that we would say, even in the past 5 years, which for the most part, our principal cohort,
Yeah, it's been
it
up
predates a
and
lot of them in their current positions. This predates them. Now, that being said, the principals play a huge role in that, because what we've told them, I remember telling Crystal and Miss Davis and Miss Williams, I said, y'all, this is a hook. The idea is you hook them and then you keep them. And so far, what we've seen is they've been able to do that. Now, adding these 2 additional schools, it's the same conversation with them. You have to, the money is great, but money doesn't make you happy necessarily at a place.
not all good money is good money.
Yeah, you cannot put a price on, okay, hey, you gave me $10,000, I'm here, but peace of mind and happiness and feeling like you're making a difference and feeling like you're valued by your administration, and those are all things I think that we continuously have to impress upon our administration and make sure they're doing consistently.
And giving them the support they need as principals to find a root cause for their individual schools. So like Dr. Eloy mentioned, this is a hook, and this is a great hook. I mean, you think about a household with 2 principals, 2 teachers, and I'm thinking I'm going over to a CIR school for whatever reason. I have, 4 children that are going to different schools, et cetera. But at the end of the day, our work is not done until we can establish that root cause at individual schools that is causing our teachers to jump ship.
LDOE has, I'm sorry, Ms. Page, let me get this one thing out, and then I promise to defer to wisdom. LDOE has put out a guidance document specifically about this, because this isn't so much about, we call it hard to staff, and it is those things, but what the research behind this is that you take your best and brightest, who typically, Ms. Page will tell you, they come in here and they say, I want to go to lab, I want to go to, and our struggle has always been, well, no, we want you to go here, and then they say, bye, I'm going to Sabine. You didn't give me what I wanted, I'm going. What we can do here is the research says that if you do this, it does level that playing field where teachers will sometimes overlook, yeah, I won't go to lab, I'll take the extra money. Because you think about it, if you did relocation and you did the CIR, you have the potential to get an extra $38,000 over the course of 3 years. Think about what that means for someone's retirement.
So does that work for in-district, in-house, all the way around?
It-
Teachers from Niagara Central can go to Godonna and do both of these?
So they get relocation and they get the CR. Yes, ma'am.
So it's over
They get the
for-
final year of the CR.
Is this the same list that we had last year of schools just adding Goldon and Lakeview?
Correct.
So now we have
8.
8 schools that'll be receiving the higher pay, right?
Correct.
And
Wait,
plus Magnet, ELAB and Middle Lab get a stipend too, so 10 out of, what's our total?
14.
10 out of 14 schools will get higher paid, so there's only 4 schools left in the parish that won't be having that level.
And the only thing I can say to that is they do have the opportunity.
Right.
But
Well, we-
school, you mentioned.
I get you.
That's the only,
Mr.
when you look at it
Nicholson.
like that, now there's,
Well, if you have
There's 4
someone in
schools
there,
in-
you have someone in mid-career, 12, 14 years, and they're saying, should I hang on? Should I do this? Should I? Wait a minute. You're gonna give me this to do that? And a job I'm already doing? I'm gone. I'll be there.
that's what I'm saying, it's dangerous for the 4 schools that doesn't.
So, and what we've said, I will say this, what we've seen so far, now we haven't done, and me and Ms. Page are gonna monitor this. We're not just gonna, if it gets out of hand, we may have an emergency called meeting, but.
You'll have some principals lose their.
Well, and we've mentioned it to the principals, but what we believe here, we've looked at staff and we said, okay, let's look at Provençal or school X. How many people do we think are going to take advantage of that? We believe 5%. And we feel as though that number, if our prediction's correct, which if y'all also remember, my predictions are always correct, but that's a manageable number for all those schools. Now, I had the conversation with a few of those 4 schools last year, and actually Lab and Magnet are very much in that zone, and they're not happy about it, but at the same time, they're like, they do recognize through gritted teeth that they have a little bit easier job recruiting. I mean, 1 out of every 3 people who come in here, when they ask for a job, they ask to go to Marthaville. And so that's where we come in and we think we can manage this effectively.
And
I
that
agree,
used
and
to
I
not
see
be
the
the
thinking
case.
behind it, but you know, the example, it's not gonna hurt Natchitoches Central because they've got X amount of teachers. But Marthaville only has a very small amount of teachers, so if you lose that 1 or 2 teachers that are holding a lot of things together, not saying it would happen, I'm just saying that's a possibility
So
that could
here's the-
happen for a possibility at $18,000 more dollars.
Here's the thing too, though. We are still in charge of, Ms. Page and I are in charge of any transfers. And so we don't want, you know, and I hate to say it, the teacher with the 1 VAM score who's just looking for money.
Right.
Will we allow that transfer? That's gonna be a case by case.
Will you allow which transfer?
Someone with a 1 VAM who is just chasing money.
Yeah, well, we don't need people just chasing money at Lakeview and Golden, because we've been experiencing this a long time. I'm just calling a name right now, but Mr. Himes did a great job of recruiting and training teachers who a lot of folks didn't even take a chance on. And that's not happening right now. So I'm very adamant about, you know, I want every school to thrive, but we're not going to be able to thrive when I'm getting calls from parents saying that my child don't want to go to school because we don't have any teachers.
Never heard that before.
The-
You know,
Well, yeah,
I know previously.
we have to
Previously,
get called.
We hadn't heard it,
Right,
but I
right.
understand why you're saying it.
Dr. Eloy makes the joke about crossing that river. That is not, that's a stigma, that's a truth.
Yeah.
It is much easier, it is much easier for Natchitoches Central or any school in the town to get teachers. It is not out there. You know how far the drive is to Golden. Money talks. We need this on that side of the river. And I say that side of the river
It'd
because
just be gas
that's
money.
what it's called, that side of the river.
If it's more than what
We need the
we
support.
need it, because after this is over, we still need.
Because the complaints, and we're talking about the CIR schools and needing, and offering the stipend, the complaints that we're getting at the CIR schools, and I'm talking about 2 or 3 different schools, CIR schools, is support, somebody help the teachers in the classroom, more people from special services, because they can't do it all.
And I think,
This is the complaints.
no, that's,
Well, and with Goldonna,
Right.
they can't do it all, but they have how many kids in a class?
It's a
You know,
small
they're
school. I understand
very
the difference
small.
between Goldonna and
Right, but,
LP Vaughn and East Natchitoches.
okay, yeah.
well,
It's a bit
and
different.
the
And
rec-
Weaver.
the recognition there, and I want to preface this by saying every teacher has a difficult job. It is difficult to move high-achieving kids higher. But I can show you all the data, whether it's the culture of poverty or discipline, those things. What we recognize at some of these CR schools, there are other issues at place that teachers have to deal with that they don't have to deal with everywhere. And so this is a recognition of, this is, in some cases, a more difficult job. And we recognize it, and that's why Dr. Brumley has talked about this differential pay scale. Now, he talks a lot about it with paying like a math teacher more or a science teacher more because they're hard to get. But I think the same can be applied to, it's just different. I mean, and I keep bringing up Mr. Nicholson, but being the principal at Weaver as opposed to Marthaville, those are 2 very different things.
Absolutely.
It is, you got rural and you got a
When we talk
city
about
school, but you said
Marthaville,
culture of
Old Donald,
poverty. I think it has to do with
Robinson.
understanding, better understanding
Yes,
of the
ma'am.
culture.
Yes, ma'am.
Not culture of poverty, but better understanding of the culture overall. That's,
No,
I don't disagree with that at all, Ms. McCaskey, but we also need to recognize that every child at every school deserves a high-quality, committed teacher, whether they're
totally
at
agree with
Magnet Lab.
No problem.
Those students deserve
agree with it.
a top-notch educator as well. And I commend our district, and I know I'm a little biased, but we're making a lot of great moves to ensure that all of our schools, when we become an A district, that we don't have any D or F schools. And so when you were talking about additional support, we just use some of our we've been very creative with our ESSER funding to bring in these special project subs so that our teachers can have that additional planning time within the school day. And so there are a lot of things we're doing, but at the end of the day, we're going to have to look at how we're going to sustain all of these efforts when this money runs out. So to bring the conversation back to this initiative here, and I just kind of want to piggyback on what you mentioned from going from, in terms of going from 6 schools to 8 schools, to keep that in mind. It's a numbers game. And so although we definitely want to pay our educators, I'll say it again, 6 figures is what they need to be making. When it comes to this piece right here, we moved from 6 schools to 8 schools. We've increased the relocation stipend, so that money starts to run a little thin. So when you are thinking about moving forward, I am very much in support of, we can put this in a new initiative on the table if we were going to add employees out of that teacher framework, but something's going to have to give.
You know, I'm sorry, Ms. Rochelle, I sidestepped Ms. Page, and she's been,
No, he said what I was going to say, but I'd like to say something. There doesn't have to be a reason. Let's just say it's a preference. Some people don't like older children, some people don't like little children. Usually
Correct.
some people don't want to cross the bridge. I thought it was a joke the first time I heard it, second time I thought they talked. The third time, this is a real thing. They do not want to cross the bridge.
I'll fly him over there.
I love my time at Lakeview when Dr. Eloy graciously asked me
but let,
to drive.
Take a vote.
It's a drive. They don't want to do this, wipe a nose, tie some shoes. They don't.
but let,
They want to do.
let me just say that I've heard this in my 3 years here, which, by the way, a week from Thursday will be my 3-year anniversary. But in my 3 years here, what I've learned is there's a lot of history or animosity with feeling that certain schools got more than others. This right here, and we couldn't have done it otherwise. You know, the ESSER money makes it possible. But this is a way of leveling the field where, you know, Lakeview should not feel slighted like maybe they have in the past, because maybe they felt like people were funneled towards Central or things of that nature, or Goldana was forgotten because it's, you know, it's so far out. This is a way that we are providing. People talk about equity in this daggum society so much, and it's become a buzzword, but this is a way to put our money where our mouth is and provide equity for our students in most need. We're not throwing money over at lab and throwing money at our highest SES students, which y'all know I love lab too, but we're putting our money to the kids who are the most needy, who not only are the most needy, but they're the most needy to have the most highly certified teachers. And data will show you that oftentimes they don't get that. And the only way, I wish there was a magic wand that I could do this in a more creative way, but the only way I can think to overcome preference is to sweeten the pot a little bit. And the plan's not perfect, it never is. But as my favorite term that I co-opted from someone, I can't remember, someone smarter than me, is don't let perfect be the enemy of progress. And we've shown so much progress, and I think this is just adding to that.
The stipend that comes to lab doesn't come from us anyway. It
That's
comes
that's NSU.
from SU,
Yeah.
right? But it's still perks. Right, right.
Yeah, they have the college perk.
They're the yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
UL system. So.
Oh. If we got,
6 to 8, but 10 schools total that would have a stipend outside of a normal teaching. lab school teachers get stipends.
Oh, okay, I got you,
Yes.
I got you.
Yeah, but no, I could imagine lab being a little hurt by this as well, right? And it's not that, I don't think that we'd be losing any current teachers, but when new potential teachers come and you can show a list of 14 schools, and if you teach at this school, you make this, and if you teach, and they have no, no preference.
As Ms. Page always says, me and Ms. Page are everyone's grandparents. We're trying to do the best for everyone. In the process, there's gonna be some people who say their piece of pizza is a little bigger than their brother and sister, but everyone's gonna eat.
Well, she's got something to work with now if they say magnet or lab, and no, we can't do that. She's got something to work with, but we do have this. I think you'll be happy.
Speaking of pizza. That concludes my.
Anyone else? We will see you Thursday, hopefully at 5 p.m.